Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Can we hear me now? Why would it do that? Why would it do that? Here. Gonna put my audio settings correct. Sorry about that. Aussie Skull, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Rosa Knight, nice to see you. Rox Fist, yes. Hashtag rookie streamer indeed. Let me start again. Hi, how's everyone doing today? How's their Thursday going? Has their week been going well? I hope so. It's been a doozy of a week, but we're getting through it, right? Baby Seal Club, hello, hello. We got some stuff to talk about today, gang. Sorry, I'm just, as you can tell, I'm a little discombobulated. But we're going to get into it, we're going to get through it, and we're going to cover news of the day, and we're going to take your call-ins, too, okay? That's what we're going to do. There's a few things that happened today, or this week, I should say, that deserve covering. And there are things that I'm sure that you guys want to yell at me about. So we're going to allow both. Hey, Dave Bucky. Easy 21A. Nice to see you, too. It's a 3-day weekend for you. Ooh, nice. Congratulations. Well, isn't there like isn't Monday a holiday? What's Monday? Remind me. Martin Luther King Jr. Day? No. Is it? Hold on. What holiday is Monday? I know it's a holiday Monday, but I forget what it is. Holiday is Monday. Washington's birthday. President's Day. Okay. Gotcha. President's Day. It's a good holiday. Taco Thursday for you? Hell yeah. What the fuck over? Megalodon President's Day. Thank you. Hey, would you blow me cash? Says all these people wanted to suck Hasan's dick 4 minutes ago. Whoa. We haven't even gotten to the Hasan stuff. I mean, we could start there if you want. But I don't understand like why you think I ever wanted to have anything to do with Hasan. I want him on my show, but I want a lot of people on my show. Okay. It's not because I agree with them. But yeah. Did Wick actually advocate for gangbangers to fight back against ICE? What do you mean by fight back against ICE? If you by fight back you mean record them, yes. If by doing violence, then no. See, this is one of the unfortunate things that I have to deal with all the time is people lie about me. And you'll find this out if you ever get even micro famous, right? If you even get like semi-known in certain spaces. One of the things that happens that shocked me when it did is people will just straight up lie about you and lie about what you say, lie about what you do. Even when evidence contradicts their lie, and it's easy to contradict their lie, they will simply make shit up about you and start to spread it. And they will take your words out of context on purpose, even when you clarify, and just spread that too. It's a constant thing that happens. It happens with pretty much everyone, though, right? To various degrees. Grackle says Pisco is actively telling people to not record. Easy to spot the bad actors. I don't believe you, Grackle. I don't think Pisco is telling people not to record people. I don't think that's happening. Hey, would you blow me? Says I hired gangbangers to film your wedding. Okay. Conservative liberalism says what Haywood doesn't know is that Wick speaks in code. Phone is code for switch, and record is code for blow them away. I guess so, maybe. Let's begin actually with some ice stuff. We'll start with some ice stuff, okay? Since we're talking about that. And this is why you record. So recently, the body cam footage has come out of the agent who shot a woman in Chicago 5 times and then lied about it and pretended that she was the one that rammed them. We have the body cam footage that is out, and there's a small little CNN segment. We're going to just watch that real quick to kind of start our day, to get the juices flowing, to get maybe the call-ins coming in, okay? And we'll just begin there. Oh, let me adjust so you can actually see this better. So you can see a more complete picture. Sorry about that, gang. Does this go more? Yes, it does. Okay, great. Let's see what it has to say. Okay, tell me if you can hear it or not.
Cameras on.
This is newly released body camera video. A team of 3 Border Patrol agents is driving through a Southside Chicago neighborhood. 2 have guns drawn. Marimar Martinez, an American citizen and school teacher, is driving next to them, honking her horn, warning people to the presence of federal immigration enforcement. Another vehicle is behind the agents, also honking the horn.
All right, it's time to get aggressive and get the out, because they're trying to box us in.
It all happens in seconds.
All right, you're fine now. All right, out of the car.
Be advised, we've been struck. Get out.
Martinez was shot 5 times and survived. In this surveillance video, you can see the front of the agent's SUV come to a stop. 4 seconds later, Martinez's silver Nissan drives off, she says, fearing for her life. The Department of Homeland Security was quick to accuse her of attacking federal law enforcement, saying Border Patrol agents were, quote, ambushed by domestic terrorists that rammed federal agents with their vehicles.
Just to kind of remind you guys, this was back last year. This, I think, was in what was it? Yeah, October. This happened, and they've been trying to fight against this body cam footage for being released. DHS, was trying to fight against this body cam footage being released to the public at all. So they didn't want us to see any of this, right? And again, pay attention to what they say happened versus what we see on the video, and things like that. Like, if you remember, in the portion we saw just there, they say that they're being boxed in. But when you see the footage, right? Here, I'll just go back. I think it's important. When you see the footage of the street, ain't no motherfucker in front of them. No one's boxing them in, right? No one's trying to, like, head them off. All they're doing is following and honking. And I understand, honking can be annoying. But then this guy in the car here rams them, gets out of the car, and shoots them 5 times. And then lies about it. Anyway, sorry, it bothers me. Let me go back to where we were. I believe we were here.
Ambushed by domestic terrorists that rammed federal agents with their vehicles. FBI Director Kash Patel posted on social media about the incident, quote, attack our law enforcement and this FBI will find you and bring you to justice. The post also included a link to video of a car ramming, but it had no connection to Martinez's case.
So again, this is what they do. They say that this person rammed them, and then, again, post a video that has nothing to do with the incident in question and is a entirely separate incident where perhaps they were rammed, but it had nothing to do with that incident. And they're doing it to deceive you. I just want to make this perfectly clear. They are trying to deceive you. They want you to believe that this was connected to the incident or part of the incident when it absolutely was not. It's insane. And they are doing it over and over and over again. And the defenders will come out and say, well, I'll fuck around and find out. She shouldn't have been honking their horns or whatever. It's insanity.
And the body camera video tells a different story. In the lead up to the collision, you hear agents say they are going to collide with Martinez.
We're going to make contact and we're boxed in.
And just before the moment of impact, it's Agent Charles Exum who sharply turns his steering wheel in the direction of Martinez. Proof, according to her attorney, that they hit her vehicle, not the other way around. And as for the claim of being boxed in, this surveillance video calls that comment into question, with nothing in the path ahead of the border agent's vehicle. The court also released text messages and emails from after the shooting, including one message from Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, just hours after the incident, offering to delay the retirement of Agent Exum, who shot Martinez. In light of your excellent service in Chicago, you have much left to do.
So they celebrated this guy internally, right? I hadn't seen that before, right? I knew about the incident, but I hadn't seen the emails and stuff. This is the email that Bovino, he's in charge of the DA of these guys, right? He's in their chain of command. He wrote, Mr. Exum, good afternoon. I'd like to extend an offer for you to extend your retirement beyond age 57. This will be your second extension, and we'd like to consider this if feasible in light of your excellent service in Chicago. You have much yet left to do. Joe, would you have staff work with Mr. Exum to accomplish this most illustrative endeavor? Thank you. So this is the kind of guy they want to keep on. Kind of guy that lies. The kind of guy that shoots a woman in cold blood, right? For no reason. Or, let me correct that, for a reason that they themselves caused. They hit her. They purposefully rammed her vehicle. They shot her 5 times. They just immediately, and you can see it, it's quick. Hits the vehicle, gets out. They say, go aggressive. The other, I think it's the other individual of the car, says, do something, bitch. Right? And then they just light her up. And this is the kind of guy that after the incident, right? And they have all this, right? They didn't need to wait or delay to see any of this information. They had access to all this information. They had the body cam footage. They had all the statements and things like that. This is what Mr. Bovino thinks is something that they want to keep within the Border Patrol agency. It's insane.
You have much left to do. And then a text message exchange between Agent Exum and someone whose name was redacted. Are they supportive? Someone asked. Big time. Everyone has been, including Chief Bovino, Chief Banks, Secretary Nome, and El Jefe himself. In various...
El Jefe himself. Who's El Jefe himself? Is that Trump? That's the implication I get, but I don't know. But regardless, we can just back up and read these a little bit, right? So they're asking, again, this is in their group chat after they've been, after the shootings happened. And one of his buddies asks, are they supporting you, right? Everyone's supporting this guy. And again, they know he lied. They had the body cam footage, right? They had all this evidence before. They know he wasn't telling the truth. And they're supporting him in this, right? From top to bottom. Everyone is what this guy says. They're being very supportive. And remember, this guy didn't even get put on administrative leave after this. Nothing happened to him. In fact, he's being praised. He's being rewarded. They're asking to keep him on. Is El Jefe Trump? It could be Miller. It could be Trump. I don't know who El Jefe is.
Time. Everyone has been, including Chief Bovino, Chief Banks, Secretary Nome, and El Jefe himself. In various texts to and from fellow agents, the mood was celebratory. Good job, brother. You are a legend among agents. You better effing know that. Beers on me when I see you at training. That's awesome. You did real good. Damn it, man. Good shooting. The day after the shooting, Martinez was indicted. According to the complaint, she, quote, forcibly assaulted, resisted, opposed, impeded, intimidated, and interfered with an officer of the United States. After her attorney viewed the body camera footage and other evidence emerged that...
Again, look at what happens here. We don't have it from her angle. I'll give you that. But watch what happens here. And watch the amount of time. They just made contact. He's getting out. Just watch the amount of time that takes place before he starts loading into her.
After her attorney viewed the body camera footage and other evidence emerged that undermined the government's version of events, prosecutors made an extraordinary move and asked the judge to drop their own case. The judge agreed, but not long after, she told me the shooting still haunts her.
I don't want to remember that day. You're laying there at night and you're just thinking about it, what's gonna happen. It's really emotional to me. So it's hard for me to talk about it, but I'm trying.
And that's part of why Martinez pushed to get all of this information out, because...
And again, we wouldn't know any of this. None of this information would have been given to us, the public, right? We would know none of this if she hadn't pushed for it to be shown, if she hadn't asked for it to be released to the public. We wouldn't know shit, right? It would just be their word versus her word. And, of course, all these boot-licking motherfuckers would just believe the government. And the wild part is many still do. There are many people out there in the comment sections, in the replies, in the quote tweets and things like that, still believe the government's version of events here. Even after we saw that video, even after we saw that report, even after it goes through the whole chain of events. And we could just see it, right? You could just look. When they say that they're being boxed in, there's no one there. Nothing is boxing them in. They are not impeded in any way, shape, or form, right? Again, they say that she rammed them. Again, the body cam footage shows he turned the wheel into her. And I know, because I know that some of you out there don't understand that when you turn a wheel in a direction, the car tends to go in that direction. And we saw that with the good argument, right? Like when she was turning her wheel to the right, and they're like, well, maybe she could have been going forward. So I don't know if you guys just don't understand physics and how these things work and any of that. But when you turn the car to the left, your car goes left. When you turn the wheel to the right, your car goes right. That's just how these things work, right? We understand, we know, we get that. So again, we have video footage of this. We have it going to court and the prosecutors having to drop the case because they realize, oh shit, this case is built on lies. DHS, Border Patrol, ICE, they've lied to us, right? They have purposefully deceived us. I don't know. Sorry. It makes me angry. It does. It upsets me. It upsets me because we should be able to trust our government, or at least more than we do now. It is important that the public has some level of trust that when the government says something, when the police say something, when the ICE Institute says something, when these institutions put out a statement, there should be an expectation of truthfulness, of candor, that they are giving us the facts, and not just as they have so often done during the Trump administration, the second Trump term especially. Fucking lied to us over and over again. $5 from Zephyr Ash. You're forgetting that ICE is not good at physics or critical thinking or object permanence. True. True. Oh, man. So I wanted to start with that, I guess, just to kind of let you guys see how these things work and what's going on, right, with everything. It's a good place to start. So this is the straits we're in. Just this kind of like sets the context of everything. We're in a situation where we have an administration right now, under MAGA. We have a MAGA-occupied government. They've appointed Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, all these crazy people. Oh, and speaking of crazy, did you guys see the Pam Bondi's interview or congressional hearing yesterday? Insanity. This was a little funny little a little GIF thing that they did. I'll show you guys real quick because I thought it was funny of the hearing.
アメリカ国民に説明できるか。なぜお前は子供を人身売買し犯したスグマン庁舎を守っているのか。なぜ子供を人身売の儀式を犯した億万庁舎を守っているのか。
了解。事実を淡々と述べるトーンでダウ平均は今5万ドルを超えています。S&P は7000部前、ナスディックも過去最高を更新しています。それこそ話題にすべきことです。それがエプスタインのファイドと何の関係があるんですか？本気ですか？
I thought it was just hilarious. That's actually the line that she said, right, when she was asked about the Epstein files. The Dow is over 50,000. The S&P is over 7,000. And you are asking me about the Epstein files? Crazy. You know, when I forgot to, when I was dating women, right, when I was with them, and I'd forget to take the trash out or something and things like that. And They turn to me like, hey, why'd you forget to take the trash out? I'd look at them and like, the Dow's over 50,000. The S&P's over 7,000. And you dare to ask me about the trash? What are we doing? Okay. Like, police officer pulls me over. Sir, do you know how fast you were going? Well, did you know that the Dow is over 50,000 and the S&P is over 7,000 right now, officer? And you are pulling me over right now? It's like the it's like the mirror universe, right? Of Free Palestine people. Whenever you talk about any single issue, they'd be like, well, how could we talk about this when there's a genocide going on in Gaza? It's like that. It's the same way of thinking. It's the same way of doing things. It's just insane. I don't understand. But that's where we're living now. That's the context. I'm just kind of giving you the kind of the baseline of where we're at. We're in a government who will just lie to your face, who will lie before Congress, who will try to deflect, distract, anything but engage with your points or answer your questions. They have ICE agents out there shooting people, killing people. We're in a crisis, a real crisis. Our institutions are being destroyed from within. Our Constitution is being shredded from within. Our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, our Fourth Amendment rights, our Fifth Amendment rights, our Eighth Amendment rights, our 10th Amendment rights, the 14th Amendment. They're trying to redo it and get rid of birthright citizenship, right? It's a constant deluge. Mark Kelly and the quote-unquote seditious six. Did you guys know that the government tried to indict those senators, throw them in jail for that video that they showed? The grand jury refused to indict them. And they also tried to strip Mark Kelly of his rank. And a judge blocked that too, right? But they're trying. They're trying to do these things because these senators and congressmen spoke out against the Trump administration, not by doing anything other than factually stating the law, right? Factually stating what is true. And then Trump administration, Pete Hegseth and all those motherfuckers, right, went after them and tried to put them in prison. That's insane. We are living in insane times. And in the backdrop of all of this, Hasan goes on a show and is asked a question.
Who do you vote for, Jay?
Let's see what he's asked, gang. Let's have a look-see.
For him. Disappointed in
Who
Gavin
do you vote
Newsom.
for, J.D. Vance or Gavin Newsom?
Well, I'd have to vote for Gavin Newsom,
Me
of course,
too.
100%.
I wouldn't blink.
There's no
What
doubt.
about you, Hasan?
I'd probably vote third party.
I don't know who these two people are, to be clear. I have no idea. But that's the obvious answer in this situation. I don't like Newsom either. I'm going to be real with you. Newsom won't be my first choice in the primary. He won't. That'll be Josh Shapiro if he runs, and I hope he does. But if Newsom wins the primary and we go into the general election and it's Newsom versus any MAGA person, let alone J.D. Vance, right? It could be any of them. I'm voting for Newsom. It won't be a hard choice. It won't be difficult, right? It'll be the easiest choice I've ever made because, again, I'm referring to all that's going on in the world right now, right? In our country right now, where we have MAGA systematically trying to destroy this country. And I'm not being hyperbolic. They're destroying what makes this country great. They're destroying our Constitution. They're destroying our rule of law. They're turning these institutions into lying jokes that kill American citizens and then lie about it to the American public. No accountability for these officers that do these things. And they are celebrating it amongst themselves, right? They're trying to get rid of your First Amendment rights, your 14th Amendment rights, your 8th Amendment rights, your 5th Amendment rights, your 4th Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights. They're constantly doing these things. And in the backdrop of all of this, if I'm asked, will you vote for the guys who are doing these things, or will you vote for the guy who will stop them doing these things? It doesn't matter who you put up that's going to oppose MAGA. I'm voting for them. But Hasan, well, let's see what he says.
Or Gavin Newsom.
Well, I'd have to vote for Gavin Newsom,
Me
of course,
too.
100%.
I wouldn't blink.
There's no
What
doubt.
about you, Hasan?
I'd probably vote third party.
You would?
Oh yeah. I mean, at that point, it doesn't even matter. Like
At that point, it doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter. He doesn't really care. First Amendment rights, First Amendment rights. Gun rights, I don't even like those. Fourth Amendment rights? Oh, I don't even know what the Fourth Amendment is.
because my policy on this is the same as like my refusal to endorse Kamala Harris. The reason why I did not endorse Kamala Harris,
and to be clear, if Kamala Harris had won, none of this would be happening right now. We'd have other problems, I'm sure, right? And it wouldn't be perfect by any means. But Alex Preddy, Renee Good, they'd still be alive. That woman wouldn't have been shot 5 times. USAID would still exist. The government wouldn't be trying to strip Mark Kelly of his rank for his First Amendment protected speech. They wouldn't be trying to throw senators in jail for their First Amendment protected speech. None of that would be happening. So this idea, right, that you can go and you could talk and you can say, well, there wouldn't be a difference. There wouldn't be a difference between Newsom, who again, I'm not a fan of, and Vance and MAGA, who would perpetuate these policies. Newsom wouldn't do any of that. Do you guys, hold on. How many leftists do I have in chat? Here, let's pause for a moment. How many people on the left are here? Who's here to defend Hasan against my, I guess, slander, if you want to call it? Is there anyone? Because I want to know, do you really, truly, seriously believe that Newsom would be trying to throw senators in jail because they spoke out against this administration? Do you really, honestly believe that under a Newsom presidency, ICE would be shooting people in the streets and no accountability would be given to them? Do you think that would happen under a Newsom presidency? Really? For real? Like, seriously? Okay, I'm not talking about leftists who disagree with Hasan. I'm talking about the leftists who agree with Hasan, right? If you disagree with Hasan, you disagree with Hasan. I do too. Can you call in? Yeah. This is a call-in show. Jump backstage. Here, I'll give you the link. Give me a second. Click the link. Accept the rules. Jump backstage. Okay, you accept the rules by hitting my little face emoji. But yeah, jump backstage. Call in. Oops. My screen go black. Am I back? Am I back, gang? But yeah, if you want to call in for a minute, this is a call-in show. Jump backstage. Give him a second, gang. Well, we'll wait for him a little bit. Here, let me get that segment back up. Hold on.
for him.
Disappointed.
Here. While we wait, let's continue. Oh, speaking of the devil. Hello, you're live. Hello, sir.
Yo, hello.
Hi, what's up?
Hey, good to see you again.
Yes.
I assume we're waiting for somebody else who may be like a full agreement with Hasan. I'm willing to play devil's advocate.
Oh, you weren't the guy in the
No.
in the chat wanting to talk to me?
I'm happy to relinquish my position.
Oh well, I don't see anyone else. So you're here. Okay.
All right,
So let
well,
me just ask you: do you think that Hassan's correct when he says that there would be no difference between JD Vance and Gavin Newsom?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. I'm looking for someone who agrees with his position, right? I want to, because otherwise we're just going to circle jerk here, right?
Look, here's what I'll say about his
Go ahead.
position. I grew up in a different country where the few times I participated in elections there, I voted third party because I felt a strong belief that the two-party system in that place at that time, one party over the other, for me, it was functionally no difference. And I would have a lot of people come after me saying like, "Oh, it's because of people like you that the worst of the two." Some people refer to this as the uniparty, right? The worst of the two with the uniparty is in power, and so like, why would you allow that to happen, right? And uh, man, it's hard. I'm in a losing position defending Hasan on this one because I just think the distance is too grand to not notice. But psychologically, I at least want to suggest like, can we not, instead of assuming that they're batshit crazy, have some respect for their position and try to I'll
Okay.
throw the question back at you, Wick. Do you
I
do you think
respect their
they
position?
steel
No,
man
and I'll tell you
Hassan's
why.
position in any way, or for you is it like so batshit crazy that there's just no way to defend it?
So I would say that in another time, in another place, like if this were, I don't know, the 1990s, and we were facing down a Republican in the 90s versus a Democrat in the 90s, I would be much more charitable to that position. I wouldn't agree with it still. I'd still think it's wrong, but I would be much more charitable to that position. Like, okay, I understand. In both cases, we have liberal candidates, right? In the classical sense of liberalism, that believed in the process and believed in the Constitution, believed in the country, right? And so while I think America would be worse off under Republicans, I can understand there would still be this kind of like understanding, this agreement, right, between the two candidates that you wouldn't put your political opponents in jail and things like that. So under those circumstances, fair enough. But my argument here is that we don't live under those circumstances and haven't for a while now. We live in a situation where one of the parties believes in America, the rule of law, the Constitution, all that, right? The other does not. And the other has demonstrated that they're willing to break laws, that they're willing to destroy the Constitution, that they're willing to go against the will of the people, right? And to lie to the American public in a way that no other presidency has done before. And under those conditions, if you're out there saying both parties are the same, I think you're my political enemy.
So to paraphrase a little bit what you're saying, it's not so much about the relative position between the two major candidates so much as it is the absolute position of the batshit crazy party and like the stakes.
Well, that would be the relative position, wouldn't it?
Based on what you're telling me, it's not so much that like it's not that you think Hasan is thinking the two parties are closer than they actually are. When in reality they're fully far apart. You're saying that you'd be okay with that kind of behavior of like voting third party if like there's a clear difference between the two candidates, if like still both candidates still agreed on some base principles of classical liberalism.
Yes, I would be much more charitable to that position. I wouldn't agree with it. I think it's wrong.
Right.
But I wouldn't think it's necessarily that harmful.
And so your position then is because of the stakes and because of just like the failure of understanding like your impact in what you're doing with not supporting the anti-crazy candidate, is that person cannot even be considered as part of my political community. They're a political enemy because they are actively bringing about through their actions, the worst possible outcome for our position.
I would say that they're materially aiding Trump and MAGA, because one of the things that helps support MAGA is this false belief that both parties are the same. One of the things that we've had a huge problem with is a lot of progressive advocacy groups are constantly, and you can see this not just online, right, but you can see this just in general, they're constantly painting Democrats as corrupt, right? Democrats are of the donor class. AIPAC owns the Democrats, right? The billionaire class, the corporate Democrat shills, right? They're all just corrupt. They're all bought and paid for. If you disagree with a leftist online, they'll accuse you of taking chorus money, of being bought and paid for as well. It's this idea, not just promoted by their influencers like Hasan and things like that, but by progressive advocacy groups just in general, that this idea that the Democrats are corrupt. And what this has done in practice is it's given cover to MAGA and to Trump to actually be corrupt, but Americans don't see a difference between the two and think, oh, well, both parties are corrupt, so it doesn't really make a difference. When that's just not really true. There is some corruption in every government system or in every party, right? And that's fair. But the idea that Democrats are corrupt is just not found out by the facts, whereas we have Trump getting millions, $500 million from another country to sell them our security chips, our AI security chips, right? 4 days before he's inaugurated, the UAE gave him $500 million, $500 million. And in return, right after he was elected, he gave them access to these chips we'd be previously denying them, right? We could see it in his crypto scams, how he basically has given the top 20 donors get a chance to go and sit with him in a private dinner to have a private conversation with him, right? That's corrupt on its face. And $600 million jet from Qatar, right? That Qatar just gave Trump this. Again, a bribe, basically. And then Trump is, just let me finish because I want to go through all of these. Trump is suing the IRS for $10 billion.
Insane, yeah.
Yes, and he can fire the guy at the IRS if they don't settle, right? So if they don't settle his case, right, he can fire them to get someone who will. It's corruption up and down the board. Democrats don't do this. And again, these progressives and people like Hasan has pushed this false equivalency that is just not true. And it's hurting us.
Can I ask a clarifying question about your perspective on this?
Sure.
Would you say that Hasan-like leftists, would you say that the reason that they have such a distorted perspective of that distance between the two parties is just because of a failure of analysis, where they're just like, if we imagine a literal left to right line, that like they are just somehow just truly failing to think and put those, like the Democrat dot and the Republican dot, in the right position within that spectrum? Or do you think it is that they are just so far to the left that from where they're standing, just like far on the horizon, like within their own analysis, they are doing a coherent relativistic viewpoint, looking out on the horizon and just seeing how far both parties are away from them. So for them, it's as good as if they were the same, right?
So
do you think it's that they're just like really just like don't get it, or do you think that they're just
I think Hasan
in their worldview, and that kind of like puts them so far away that they can't understand that distance, even if they're doing the correct analysis?
I think it's a third thing. I think that Hasan and his ilk, right? You got Mike from PA, you got Shonda Black, all those people. They are purposefully and knowingly, maliciously lying and slandering the Democrats. A lot of progressives, like super progressives, do this. Not all of them. I'm not talking about the ones who aren't. So if you're a progressive and you're saying and I'm saying that there's people who are lying and it's not you, calm down. I'm not talking about you. But there are a lot of these groups who the power that they gain is directly from the Democrats. So if they want to grow as a political party, it has to come at the expense of other coalitions within the Democrats. So what they have chosen to do is to basically just lie and misrepresent about what normie, kind of moderate Democrats are and what they do in order to siphon off support from them to themselves so they can have a bigger influence, a bigger piece of the pie within the Democratic coalition as it currently exists, or the left-wing coalition as it exists. Let me finish.
So to try to
let me finish real quick.
saying.
The left-wing coalition as it currently exists. So Hasan and co. are actively and maliciously misrepresenting and lying about what Democrats think and believe, and what moderate Democrat politicians think, believe, and do. And you can see this in Newsom. Right? They're saying he's anti-trans, where he's signed a bunch of pro-trans legislation and vetoed a lot of anti-trans legislation. So they just actively lie.
Okay. That's very helpful. I guess I don't have any follow-up question. Just kind of response to your claim then there. Sure. Like what evidence would you bring up to support your claim that they're coming at this from a true like zero-sum game, bad faith type of strategy of like lying to like, you know, convert the masses? What's your evidence to support that it's that and not just like good faith, good old resentment, and that they truly believe what they're saying? You don't think they could honestly believe that?
Well, I mean, I don't think they do. I don't think they're that dumb. I don't think that they honestly believe these things. I think that
so you can't,
for example,
imagine
I gave you
that
the
someone
example
could
of
be...
Newsom, right?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
I gave you the example of Newsom, right? He has signed, right, pro-trans, pro-LGBTQA legislation in California. He's vetoed anti-trans law and bills, and he's gone through and removed, right, anti-trans portions of legislation. The Democrats as a whole have done this, right? And then you have Hasan, however, and here, give me a second, and I think it's important to watch this because I think this kind of speaks to where we're at, right? I want to make sure it's the right clip. Give me a second. Yeah, this is it. Okay, I want us to watch this together, so I'm going to share screen here. You don't have to see it real much. You got to hear it, though. Are you ready? You listening? Do you have it up?
I'm listening.
Okay.
You're yelling at one of the few people that does give a fuck about trans people in general, okay? That's all you're doing. Democrats don't give a fuck about you. They would literally shoot you in the fucking head if it meant that they would be able to secure additional electoral wins. Shut the fuck up.
This is my evidence that he's just lying. Democrats have been one of the biggest allies to the LGBTQ community, sometimes at electoral expense, where they have lost votes. They have lost support because they take these stances. And here he is simply lying and saying that Democrats would shoot them in the head, right? It's malicious. It's on purpose. He knows what he is saying is not true, but because he wants you to support him and his designs and not the Democratic Party as a whole, he's simply going to lie about what the Democratic Party thinks and believes.
Sure. And, you know, I'll add one piece of evidence. I think Hasan himself has many times expressed pretty explicitly that he considers himself as a propagandist. That he considers what he does as propaganda for a specific political purpose of getting people, I guess, to gain class consciousness and support the revolution or whatever. But so, like, I can see why you have that perspective. I guess I'm just in a position where I just don't agree with. Personally, I can envision. And partly because I have people in my own life that are like this. I can envision people who I would otherwise consider wholly intelligent, really adept at political analysis, and are making the same categorical error that Hasan and a lot of leftists make with equating two main political parties. And when with Hasan, I guess there's a special case of like, the position he holds as a propagandist. But it's kind of just easier for me to like look at a clip like that and just like, uh, attribute it to just the casual streaming kind of like environment that he produces for himself in his chat and the way he just does conversation. Is it bad? Is
So
it way too exaggerated?
yeah,
Yes.
let me
But
just.
bad faith, I think, is I think it's a failure of imagination of like how different people can look at the same problem, look at the same situation, and just arrive at totally different conclusions. I don't
Hey,
think that if you actually had Hassan do a lie detector test or take a truth serum, that he would like bet his life that Democrats would be happy to shoot LGBTQ people in the
well,
face.
here's the problem.
Honestly, as a viewer, it sounded
If
kind
I
of
may,
funny, you know?
if I may, um, honestly, the problem is that this isn't the only thing Hassan has said or done, and he has said, and I hope I don't have the clips on me right this second. And if anyone in chat does, please send them to me. But he's spoken of this on other podcasts where he has said that his purpose is to subvert the Democratic Party. He wants to siphon off viewers from Democrats and siphon off supporters from Democrats to get them to go a third way. What my view of Hasan is an accelerationist. Do you know what an accelerationist is?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so just so the
I don't
audience,
know
in
if
case they
he
don't,
would
I'll just tell
classify
them.
himself as an accelerationist, but carry on.
Yeah. So an accelerationist is someone who would like to see things get worse. Who would like to see the country get worse because they believe that if it gets bad enough, if things get burned down, basically, that they can rise from the ashes with their ideology. Like late stage capitalism, they want to accelerate it so it burns everything burns down to the ground so socialism can come in its place. Hasan has stated that this is what he wants, right? This is the kind of thing that he wants to happen. And so it makes perfect sense, if I may finish, it makes perfect sense to me, right? His statements about the Democrats, his refusal to endorse Kamala, his refusal to endorse whoever the Democratic primary party person is in the future, like, because he understands that as things get worse, he will gain more influence. He will gain more power. He will have more of a hold over the Democratic Party, with the belief, mistaken or not, that they will flock to him, right, when the going gets tough. That's his modus operandi. That's what he's doing.
I'm not enough of a Hasan completist to be able to refute or agree with the notion that he's an accelerationist. I from my best of understanding, I don't think he would agree with that characterization at all. But without getting like too bogged down on that specific point, I think I think you and many liberals in the chat are fair to be annoyed or even infuriated by these clips of Hasan basically equating a Newsom presidency to the future Franco-fascist regime of J.D. Vance or whatever the hell comes next in this MAGA crazy train. But there's a lot of reasons to be concerned over what a lot of influencers, and not just Hasan, a lot of influencers on the far left are talking, how they're talking about things. So, like, I don't want to refute that point. Like I said, I didn't come here to be a Hasan apologist per se. I just think I personally believe we are better off in terms of our own political analysis and our own like decision making about what do we do with these kinds of people, what kind of messaging do we do in response, both in leftist circles and in the center and in the mainstream media. I think we are better off making those analyses if we kind of just take the really hard to swallow pill of accepting that a lot of these people are coming at it from good faith. And look, I'll even concede that maybe Hasan is playing some politics.
I'll just concede
okay.
the point. I don't think that most leftists are liars. I don't think that. I'm talking about the talking heads. I'm talking about Hasan, Mike from PA,
Vosh
Sean
is it doing
Black,
the same?
Vosh. Yeah, I think Vosh is a liar. But Vosh has already said he'd engaged in tactical lying. He admitted it. He'll engage in tactical lying if it gets him closer to his goal. He said that.
think he has said that. That is
Yeah.
fair.
So what else am I supposed to think of? Like, oh, this guy will just lie if it helps him.
Well, because I feel like I've seen enough of these streamers and just like I just hung out with people who are like them in real life. Like a lot of these streamers, there's nothing really special about them outside of them having streamed at the right time and gotten lucky and been, attractive to the right crowd at the right time, right? But there's a dime a dozen. We all know Hasan in our life, and I just feel like not getting so hung up on exposing these people as liars is really like the way to go. Ultimately, we got to play the numbers game, and I still think
that's what I'm doing.
It's much better for us to talk in our real lives about like, hey, how do I have that hard conversation with the leftists?
Yeah, but hold on,
because I'm sure there's plenty.
That's what I'm doing. I'm playing the numbers game. I'm recognizing that. So here's the basic argument that's happening. If we want to take it on the kind of, if we want to separate it from the influencers and separate it from Hutch versus Hasan for just a moment, there's the basic two schools of thought that are in competition right now. One school of thought thinks if the Democratic Party wants to win in the future, they have to move left on certain issues. They have to appeal to the leftist crowd, to the progressives, in order to rile up or excite the base, basically. Excite people who don't normally come out to vote, who will finally be able to get a voice. And that's the winning strategy to go, is we need to move left as a party, and we need to appeal to the Hasan-like people, maybe not Hasan himself, but, the people who think Newsom's crazy and shit. We need to appeal that way. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought, and the one I belong to, is that I think that we need the first order of business, if we want to get anything done in this country, is to win. And how do we do that? Is by going where I think the voters actually are. And I have the data on this, and we can look at it if you want. But since 2016, at least, moderates outperform progressives, and progressives outperform further left candidates, right? The more moderate you are as a candidate in general, the better you do in the general elections. You outperform by several percentage points in many cases. And we can look at the evidence of the 2025 special elections in November. Like Mamdani did win in New York City, that is true, but he won by less margins than all the other Democrats that were in play, right? The the New Jersey governor and the Virginia governor and their lieutenant governors and all those people, right? They all won by much bigger margins than Mamdani did because they were more moderate. And I think that's just the general way we should go in the general election. So those are the two schools of thought that are in competition here. I think that Hasan is trying to leverage people and trying to force the issue to say, I'm not going to support anyone you put out unless it's someone I approve. And my argument is that if we kick Hasan out, we will get more votes. If we make sure that these people have less influence in our party, we will get more votes, and we will be able to protect trans rights. We will be able to get rid of ICE. We will be able to do all these things much more likely than we are if we go the progressive leftist route. That's my argument, and I think it's based on data.
What would you say to the counter argument that, for example, that Bernie would have won in 2016 or 2020? Like, how do you respond to that? I don't think it's true.
2020. If he couldn't win the primary, I don't think you can win the general. I don't think Bernie, like, people talk a lot about it, the super delegates in 2016. No, he just lost the primary. He didn't get as many votes as Clinton. I don't think he could have cleared Clinton. I voted for Bernie in the primary, to be clear, right? But again, we have a primary process to see who's more electable, right? That's at least the idea behind it.
Yeah. So, where I find in disagreement with what you're talking about here, and I think I brought this up the last time I was in a call with y'all, is my concern that just like, are we sure that this left-right framing in the context of national electoral politics is actually giving us the right image of the electorate? like you in the same way that you can make this argument that, oh, if you moderate, you'll do better with the electorate.
Well, you know the
I'm
metric
sure
I'm
there's
using
arguments
here,
for
right?
that, especially when I'm sure there's like statistical arguments
No, like hold
proving
on.
that.
Can I just ask so we can understand each other? Like the metric I'm using here, the metric I'm going off is votes. How many votes people cast for different candidates. What metric to understand what people want, what metric other than votes would you suggest we use?
Votes is good with me. We can operate on votes, but I guess I'm just trying to. I couldn't finish my statement. I'm just trying to flip your logic about like moderation is key. Like, do you think that's there's a concerning asymmetry with the fact that the Republican Party kind of took the complete opposite approach, right? Like they went full radical, and somehow they've been able to win 2 of the last 3 elections.
Well, I would extend that, and if you look at the last 5 elections, they've lost 3 of the 5, right? If we look at 2016, they won the presidency. In 2018, we won, right? The Democrats won. In 2020, the Democrats win again. In 2022, the Democrats win for a 3rd time, but we do lose in 2024. I would say that 2024, a lot of people who are kind of relying on that as a metric, there were so many things that were unique about the 2024 election, pushing Biden out at the very end, appointing Kamala basically, and she only having 3 months to campaign, that I don't think we can draw too many conclusions from the 2024 election, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a fair argument. I guess I just propose a counter argument that when I think about the Trump voters in my life, and not the Trump voters who are like MAGAites. I mean, like the people who were reluctant voters, weren't sure who they're going to vote for, like the actual independents who swung the election. I don't see them talking about their personal politics or how they made that decision on the basis of like, the way usual like politics wonks talk about it in terms of left right. Like I think people gravitate towards candidates or gravitate away from candidates in ways that are just not as unipolar, I think, as the way we talk about it in these online spaces. And I think that same kind of logic would have applied slash explains why a lot of people, I think a lot of smart people still do argue that Bernie Sanders would have had a chance and that a lot of Bernie supporters would have also been Trump supporters, and why so many Trump supporters in New York, even though they're few, did lean towards Mamdani, right? And I think like us being able to have that ability of switching perspectives and not only thinking about it in terms of left right, it kind of goes to show that there are some ways that you can, in your own words, right, meet the electorate where they're at by having like very popular policies, but also very popular attitudes and forms of politicking that
Sure, I
don't have to do with like whether or not they're a progressive or not,
Yeah,
right? Like a lot of people
I don't
love
disagree
AOC,
with
and
you
it has
here. That
nothing to do with.
I think that we can take messaging styles and ways of campaigning, campaign tactics that win, right? They win regardless of what party you are, right? They win regardless of what your policies are. But I reject the notion that policies don't matter. I think they do. I think a lot of people minimize the impact that someone's stance on immigration or someone's stance on, foreign policy might have on the electorate and how these things can set the tone, right? You can campaign well or you can campaign poorly, but I think even with the best campaign, your policies will make a difference. So if you have 2 ideal candidates, let's say you have the best campaigner on the left and the best campaigner on the moderate side, I think that in a contest between these 2, the moderate side wins because, again, they're both campaigning to the best. They both have great messaging. They both have great strategies and things like that. But the moderates' policies will push them over the top in a way the leftists will hold them down, not just not be as good as the moderates, but actually be a negative on them.
So ultimately, what we're having a disagreement on, I guess, is like political physics or like macro politics in a way, right? Like believe that a strong moderate candidate like Josh Shapiro will just run away with the election. Whereas I think that if you have a outsider candidate with no affiliation of the Democratic Party, even if he has ass policy, I think that person would win. Would you agree that that's our main disagreement?
I think it is. I think it is. I don't think that again, it depends who, right? I can imagine
my
a
argument
situation. Just to be clear, and let everyone know, the reason why I think this is important now is because I think that no matter what we do, pretty much we're going to win in 2026. Like, it's just we're in like a Democrat +10 environment right now, and unless something radically changes between now and November, whoever the Democratic candidate is for each area, they'll probably win. They have a much larger chance of winning than normally. But what I'm
say for swing districts, where I suppose you would argue, hey, there we have to run the person whose policies.
Well, I think we should, but I think even in that case, even if you run a progressive candidate, they might even eke it out in this environment. But they have less of a chance to do so. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No,
and
that
I
totally
don't
makes
want to
sense.
play dice with this. I want to make sure to give us the best odds that we can get, and especially in purple or even pink districts. Yeah, you run the moderate every time, because while the progressive might win, especially in this environment, I think that it's too risky, and also it's a long-term health of the party thing, right?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you there, and that's probably generally true. But going back to my argument about the political physics,
I do have to get back to the rest of my stream soon. So
let's
wrap
of
it up a
course,
little
feel
bit.
free to kick me out. I'll end it up with this, right? I think it matters how we perceive the electorate and what their intentions are. Was my first point, and my second point is it matters to try to understand how the political electorate responds to candidates, and I think beyond just left and right, ultimately you can go back to human psychology. And I think that if Donald Trump could have eked out a victory after being a convicted criminal and probably a child rapist, if he could win the presidency, I think that makes a lot of good arguments that as long as you have one or two good slogans, one good policy, a la Bernie Sanders with Medicare for All or a la Trump with Build the Wall, and if you have the right personality, then you could run away with an election no matter where in the political spectrum you fall, because most people don't actually interpret their politics through that left-right lens, even if they think they are.
My counter.
And when it comes to thinking about people like Hasan and their impact on all this, I just think when we're playing the numbers games with leftists are people who are actually thinking in terms of this, left-right split. And in their case, it may actually be helpful to speak to them in terms of their politics and not to just consider them as batshit crazy or
my counter to this would be that Trump could not have done that with a more moderate candidate. He would not have won. He would have lost.
Oh man, I mean, as someone who's really far to the left, I can't help but think of Biden as a moderate.
If I may, it matters who you face, right? Like your opponent absolutely matters. Which brings me in to kind of more my another kind of theory I'm crafting, right? Called the stinky boy theory of electoral politics. Okay, Hasan, gang, Hasan is a stinky boy. Okay, he's like if you have a party at your house or whatever, and one person at that party just stinks. He hasn't bathed in a while. He's been sweating. He's odious, right? His odor just creeps through everything, right? Even if there's only one in your party, right? And you have like 20 or 30 people there, no one's going to want to come to your party. They're going to leave because there's a stinky boy there. Hasan is a stinky boy in our party. He is someone who has gotten so much attention from politicians. AOC has talked to him. Bernie Sanders has talked to him. He recently went on with AOC and Don Lemon, right? Like, he's had multiple articles in leftist and more progressive and even Democratic think tanks and magazines and things like that, where they're saying he's the face of the Progressive Party. Look at Hasan, but he's a stinky boy. He's stinking the place up. No one wants to come into our tent because there's a stinky boy in it. So how do you remove this problem? You get rid of the stinky boy, okay? You make it clear that he's not welcome here, okay? I think that the same is holding true for people on the right, like Nick Fuentes, like Andrew Tate. They're stinky boys for the right. And it comes down to which party is the least stinky. And I think that that's where I think that if we get rid of our extremists, if we kick them out, our party will be better and look better to the average voter in comparison to the other side. But thanks for calling in, man. I'll see you later, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Stinky boy politics, gang. It's a real thing. And I got one more caller I'm going to bring in a second, but just let me get through this, okay? It's Stinky Boy Politics 101. Hasan, Mike from PA, they're stinky. They don't smell good, okay? The average voter is turned off by their advocacy and by what they say. One of the most effective tactics that Trump and MAGA and basically Republicans in general have had against Democrats in the last 20 years, right? A little less than that, right? But about then, is they have been able to successfully, in the minds of many voters, paint all Democrats to hold the same beliefs and advocate for the same things as far lefts and very extreme progressives have, right? They have successfully made the far left and progressives the face of the party to many people in America. It's not true. It's a lie. It's not. It's fake news, gang. But they have successfully done this. This has been a very successful operation for them. In order to combat this, we need to take a hardline stance against our extremists. We need to kick them out. We need to combat this false narrative and show them that no, we don't listen to these motherfuckers. They're not with us. The stinky boys are gone, and we need to scrub the place clean so it doesn't smell. Okay? $5 from Psycho. Psycore Games says, your stinky boy theory works only if you assume most constituents aren't into smelly musk. Fair enough. And one of the problems we're having is people get nose blindness, right? They get nose blindness. They don't smell the stink anymore because they've been around it so long, right? You can't smell yourself, usually. You don't know you stink. And a lot of these people don't know they stink. Quantum Fantasy, Tier 1, 16 months. Thank you for the Tier 1 membership. Says you can't sit with us. True, that's what we should be saying. But we're not. And that's the problem. We got to fix it. Let me bring on some more callers. Give me a second. Okay, you're live.
Oh, hi. So I agree with what you were saying about we need to out the I guess the bad actors within the left party.
Yeah.
I think my thing is as well though is just the lack of information because like Hasan, he's really good at just as I said before, he tries to kind of LARP as like a progressive centrist type of ordeal. And I think a greater concern for me, and if I'm willing to go a little conspiracy theory, is just like during the 2020s, streaming being really kind of the only medium of escapism during the COVID times. Fast forward to now, I would assume I would believe that people that were Hasan viewers, like now they're done with college, go into the media sphere. I think my concern is that there are people who view Hasan in a certain light, are kind of going to the media spheres. Like for example, like on the Daily Show, they had Hasan on, and it was just a weird segment where just like, oh yeah, TikTok, it's such a great medium platform. Also, like look at these cats and dogs, but I feel like it is just, I guess for gags, sure. But it's just like I feel like we need more, I guess, mainstream media to be aware of the kind of the kind of character politically that Hasan Piker is.
I agree with you that we do need more awareness. I think Hasan
Mhm.
is fine to platform as long as you platform him adversarially. I think at this point he's an adversary to the
Mhm.
Democratic Party. He is our enemy. He doesn't
Mhm.
want the same things as us, right? It's
Mhm.
very much liberals versus illiberals. The liberals, the only liberals in play right now are the Democrats.
Mhm.
The
Agreed. One.
illiberals are MAGA,
Mhm.
Hasan, the far left, all these other groups, the Nick
Mhm.
Fuentes types, they're all illiberals, okay?
Mhm.
The only
Yes.
liberals out there at this moment are Democrats, and
Mhm.
we need to just keep that front and center in our mind right now,
Mhm.
right? A lot of
And I
people are
think
saying, like, polygraph lie
Mhm.
detector, why don't you just, hold on, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Polygraph lie detector, you think I'm bad, call in and tell me about it, man. You're spamming my chat. Just call in. We'll have a conversation. I'll be nice. I won't call you slurs. I promise. Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Nah, it's quite all right. I guess for me, I kind of would have to kind of disagree. Like, I feel like it's a pro and a con on two fronts. For example, for you, it's like there would need to be person to be kind of a neutral stance or given opportunities, just be like, hey, I'll let you speak your mind. However, though, if there's disagreements or kind of discrepancies, I'm going to call them out. Um, but I feel like for MAGA and the illiberals, they take advantage of that because, like, the moment you try to call them out on certain discrepancies that are inconsistent with their own, like, actual, like, moral, like, views or stances, they'll just try to attack or to somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah, that happens. But I don't understand why you disagree with me, though. What's the disagreement? I'm sorry.
I think the issue is to, like, kind of be on a neutral stance. Like, I feel like it's gone to a point where, like
a neutral
trying to
stance
be
how? Towards Hasan?
Yes.
Okay, what do you mean by a neutral stance towards Hasan? Maybe you can elaborate. Maybe help me understand.
Okay, let me see. I guess if I paint into like a MAGA perspective, or like certain people that are considered centrist, like I disagree with Trump on these certain things or those certain things. I mean, however, though there have been certain goods, and it was just like, really, like, like I can't. And if Donald Trump say he goes steps out of line, and then you say,
Well,
well,
hold
I
on.
didn't vote for this.
Why
And
are
what are
we
you
talking
talking
about
about?
MAGA when we should be talking we're
Mhm.
talking Hasan today, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes, but
let me just ask.
my
Let
my
me straight up
Mhm.
ask you. What
Okay.
good do you think Hasan brings to the Democrat Party? What are the positives of associating ourselves with him?
Little to none.
Okay, so why would I ever be neutral on
Mhm.
this? Why wouldn't I
Mhm.
excise him?
I guess for me, the excising part of it would be is just like if Hassan has just enjoyed too much of just either people not knowing enough about his politics or not like kind of calling out his politics enough, like kind of digging deep, like, okay, why don't you say this and that? I feel like with Hassan, it's like he knows who to go to. He knows that, like, okay, this person, he's not going to combat me as much. I'm going to be able to hop on their stream, kind of, play a character so then I kind of look normal and gain more of a following or gain more awareness and attention. And I feel like that has been the strategy for Hassan for quite some time, or
Yes,
not
he
even
hides
just
his
Hassan,
power
just
level.
the
I agree,
liberals.
but that's why
hmm
I want to excise him, so we can
hmm
expose his power level.
Uh, I mean, if you ever get the opportunity to get Hassan on, I
I'll
am
have
looking
him
forward to
on,
that.
but it's going to be an adversarial conversation. I'm going to
hmm
disagree with him. Yes.
hmm
But I won't.
Okay.
I'll be polite. Look, I am.
hmm
In most cases, not every case. Okay. In most
hmm
cases, I try to be polite. I do. If
hmm
you throw shots, I'll throw shots back. But yeah, I'll be respectful if it comes on.
hmm
But we will disagree, and it will be a heavy
hmm
disagreement. Okay. Well, thanks for calling in.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got a
absolutely.
few more
Thank you.
other
Also,
calls.
actually, could I add actually one more thing too?
Yeah, one
I
more
guess
thing.
for
Go
you,
ahead. One more
not.
thing.
I guess not for you, but I guess if there's any like kind of streamers or content creators, I've been wanting someone or to coin this idea of like addressing as like these sort of far left extremists as like STDs or STIs. socialist tanky dummies, social tanky idiots, or however you want to switch the last acronym. I don't know.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
I don't know. Maybe. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Yeah. All right. You take care.
I'm gonna be real. I'm still not entirely sure what the disagreement was there, but that's fair. Hello, you're live.
What up? What up?
Yo, how's it going, man?
All right. I actually just wanted to come in here and join the Hasan trashy party because these online lefties to me are the height of what was it? I want to call privilege or arrogance, or maybe I guess you could say privileged arrogance, where politics is just their aesthetic. They don't actually give a fuck about it. They just want to run their little social club online where they're the cool kids and everyone else is a fucking nerd. So it just pisses me off as someone who's actually elected and actually does do politics IRL and sees the impact of it. It's infuriating to me watching
Can I ask, since you do, like, you are involved a lot with online or offline IRL politicking, IRL canvassing, all that, right? What are some of the negatives that Hasan's association with the Democratic Party? How does it hurt you?
How does it hurt me specifically?
Or how does it hurt us, the Democrats, that you've seen, right? In ways you've seen.
Because we have to, so I'm just going to blend myself in with kind of the party generally where I am.
Sure.
Because I understand that the party can be different depending on the state and city. But where I am generally, we have to spend at least a couple of minutes with every third or fourth voter saying how we aren't crazy communists who want to just abolish capitalism or want to steal away their guns or crazy shit like that. Or about how we don't want to just trans every kid. We have to do that kind of like that narrow line where you're like, yes, we accept that trans people exist, but also that we're not going to actively make your kid trans. You know what if that makes sense, if you understand what I'm saying.
It does. Like, so
yeah.
you have to basically disavow yourself from the crazy lefties like Hasan. And one of the reasons that you have to is because people have equated you to, and one of the reasons that they're able to equate you to is because Hasan is a stinky boy stinking up the party.
Yeah, no, and well, so specifically for Hasan, we actually did have a Hasan viewer come in to our local party recently, and they wanted to become more involved. So more power to them, respectable. But then they started saying how the Democratic Party needed to reflect them and not necessarily us. And by the way, I'm in a progressive state. And they wanted us to take a position on trans kids in sports for the local election. And we just basically said that we'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis, but they were unhappy that we wanted to do a blanket, we wouldn't just do a blanket trans kids belong in every sport and women's sports. And it's really, if anyone has a problem with it, then they're the problem. And we told them that, no, that's not going to happen. And then I asked him why he had to take such a hardline stance. And he said, well, because I'm reflective of where the party should be. And I'm the voter that you people need. And I'm the person you really should listen to.
And that's the overall problem, I think. Not to jerk each other off too much, right? But the overall problem I'm seeing is that they are demanding us go in a direction that's going to lose us voters overall. It's not where the party. It's not a victorious direction. Look, if you want people to have more progressive policies, you have to convince them that those policies are good, right? You have to do the work. You have to go out. You have to make concise, cogent arguments that actually are convincing and persuasive. But what they're trying to do instead of that is to skip that whole process and to kind of hijack successful Democratic politicians and try to parasite them from within, basically.
Well, a couple points to that is one, People forget that Hasan was actually kicked out of the DNC last time around, because he doesn't represent the party and because he's not a real ally to the party. Two, the people who are saying that we need to pander to them don't understand that Democrats will pander to our reliable voting blocks. There are a reason why the Black Caucus is highly respected and highly influential in the Democratic Party, and that's because they mobilize a significant portion of voters to come out every year and vote for Democrats. It's the reason why organized labor has such a huge say in our party, because every election, organized labor pushes their members to go to the polls. Not to mention that the Black Caucus and organized labor do donate their time, effort, and money to the party. But like people like Hasan just don't even do shit like that, and they expect to have influence. Like
Here we are.
you need to wield your influence to benefit the party. Not the party needs to benefit, it needs to be there for you so you can gain influence. It doesn't work like that.
Is what it is. But thanks for calling in, man. Got another
Yeah.
caller I need to get to, but I appreciate you being here, buddy, okay?
All right. Love you, Wick. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, he's just preaching to the choir here. Like, yes, I agree with everything he just said. That is absolutely true. Bring on the next caller. Hello.
Hello. First, can I say, love the cranberry jug?
Yeah, you can say that. I enjoy it too. It's a cran grape, actually, but fair
Ooh,
enough.
I like it. I like it. I would say, like, the only thing I would say is that I don't think Hasan is lying, that for him, there's no difference between, like, Democrats and Republicans.
You don't think he's lying? You don't think he understands that there is a huge difference between Democrats and Republicans? You think that he just thinks that they're all the same? They're all just basically fascist or fascist light type of deals?
No, more like, because you picked this out, that he's an accelerationist, so for him, they're keeping, like, the status quo, I guess. They're liberals, like normal conservatives, not MAGA so much.
Yeah, I was about to say MAGA's definitely not keeping the status quo, man. Like
True.
They're not doing that.
Yeah. But I think that's why he's, like, shitting on Democrats so much, because they're keeping, like, the status quo in his.
Well, so you think that he wants MAGA to win? Is that what you're saying? Like,
I think
might
that's
agree.
the only lie, is that Hasan should be voting for Republicans from his, like, worldview of, like, wanting things to, like, tanky revolution type shit.
I think he might actually be voting for Republicans, but I don't know. His vote's secret, as it should be in the thing. But no, I think that he absolutely wants Trump and MAGA to win. I think he absolutely does desire that outcome, and I think the reason I know that is because he works towards that outcome. So, for example, the clip we saw earlier of him saying, well, you know what, J.D. Vance, Democrats, they're the same, right? J.D. Vance and Newsom specifically are the same. I think that this does material harm to the Democratic Party and lowers their chance of winning. It depresses turnout. It makes it harder for the average voter, the average viewer, to kind of differentiate between the two sides, between MAGA and between Democrats, and it makes it less likely that they'll vote, which, again, materially harms us, materially helps them.
Yeah, and he thinks that's a good thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we agree. What else you got?
Well, and then one more thing, it was like, for, like, his worldview, it's kind of like it's like a mediocre job trap or something, where it's like, say you're at a job, it's like, it's a bad job, but it's not bad enough for you to find a new job. Basically, in this scenario, it's better for your job to get worse so that you, like, are motivated enough to find a new job.
Yeah.
But, like, in this context, instead of it being a new job, it's going from capitalism to communism, socialism, whatever the fuck.
Accelerationism. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're correct. This is another one where I just don't disagree with you, man.
All right.
Okay.
That's
Well,
all.
thanks
See you
for
later.
calling in. Have a great day. Does anyone disagree with me? I would like that. But yeah, it's a matter of, and a lot of people are in chat like, Wick is a liar. He denigrates Republicans. Sure, but then he helps them win, right? Deeds not words, gang. Deeds, not words. It's not what you say, it's what you do that matters in the end. I could say all day long, I support the Democrats, right? But unless I'm out there canvassing for them, unless I'm out there trying to convince people to vote for them, unless I'm out there, right, tackling their political opposition, do I really support the Dems? Probably not, right? And one of the easiest, simplest things that you can do, and you should do, if you are a influencer who believes that MAGA is a threat to America, which I do, you have a moral obligation, a responsibility to try to influence your audience to vote for Democrats. Does anyone disagree with that stance? So, this is my argument, just kind of in general, separate from Hasan, separate from Democrats, separate from anything, okay? This is just kind of like a meta argument that I have, and this is how I conduct myself and how I try to live and how I expect others to live, okay? Everyone has a set of values and morals, right, that they believe in. Policy positions that they believe will help their country, and there are policy positions that they oppose that they feel will hurt their country, right? I think that as a moral actor, you have an obligation to vote for the politicians who will best represent your values and best oppose the values that you are against, right? Does anyone disagree with that so far? That you have a moral obligation as a citizen of your country to cast a vote for the person that you think will best represent you, right? Your values, and also at the same time, best oppose the values that you dislike. Does anyone disagree with that so far? Okay. When you are in a situation where there are two options, okay, you choose the one that best represents you, okay? Best gets you closer to your goal. If you are an influencer, if you are someone who has an audience, like, well, my audience isn't the biggest, but I have an audience, right? Hasan has an audience. Destiny has an audience. All these streamers have audiences. You have an obligation to influence or attempt to influence your congregation, for lack of a better term, your audience, to vote for the candidate that best represents your values and will best oppose the values that you oppose. Okay? That's why I encourage you all to vote Democrat. And why when someone fails in their obligation, I will condemn them. If you were a voter and you voted for values that I think are wrong, I will condemn you for that. If you're a voter that purports to share my values, which I hope you do, and if you don't, I'd like to convince you otherwise, right? That's another obligation I have. If you're a voter who shares my values, and you didn't vote, or you voted the opposite of me, then I will condemn you for that too. It's not a huge condemnation in certain cases, right? But you do hold a level of responsibility, and I think you failed in your responsibility. It's that simple. If you're an influencer, same thing. I think that we have an obligation to influence our audiences to vote and to vote for the candidates that we want them to vote for, right? That best represent our values. And I think that if you purport to share many of the values that I do, right? Medicare for all, right? Trans rights. If you believe in freedom of speech, if you believe in the Constitution, all these things, and then you fail, right? You fail to endorse the candidate that will best get you there. If you fail to influence your audience or try to influence your audience to vote how you should, then I think you're morally condemnable. And remember that clip we just saw? Well, we'll just go over it again. We didn't get through the whole thing. Here, we'll watch it again.
For him.
Disappointed in
Who
Gavin
do you vote
Newsom.
for, J.D. Vance or Gavin Newsom?
Well, I'd have to vote for Gavin Newsom,
Me
of course,
too.
100%.
I wouldn't blink.
There's no
What
doubt.
about you, Hasan?
I'd probably vote third party.
That is a failure of your obligation because we live in a country and we live in a state where third party will not win. If you are leftist in any shape, way, or form that isn't an accelerationist, and if you're an accelerationist, I think you're a bad person. I think you're evil, to be clear, right? So I think Hasan's evil, right? But he said, let's say he wants to be like a normal person, right? And he's representing as a normal person. Telling your audience that you're going to vote third party is a moral failure on your part, right? Because again, you're equating these two things. You're making Democrats and Republicans seem the same when they're absolutely not. Let's see his reasoning here.
You would?
Oh yeah. I mean, at that point, it doesn't even matter. Like, because my policy on this is the same as like my refusal to endorse Kamala Harris.
He refused to endorse Kamala Harris. A lot of people have argued me that, oh no, he was encouraging his audience to vote for Kamala. If you had two brain cells to rub together, you'd know he was encouraging them to vote Kamala. Well, here Hasan is saying that he refused to endorse Kamala.
The reason why I did not endorse Kamala Harris was because she did things that were not only unproductive, but also unconscionable. And I still stand on that. I still talk about it all the time because people constantly bring it up. They're like, you didn't sufficiently like promote Kamala Harris. You're the reason why she lost. And I'm like, I am incapable. There is no singular force in this country that is capable of making or breaking an election. And if that was real.
This is a cop-out, gang. They like to do this. They like to retreat to like, I'm just a small bean. I'm just a small boy. I have no influence. I have no real power. My singular vote or my singular endorsement won't make or break things. But that does not absolve you of responsibility. You understand? Like, just because my singular vote as an American citizen is very unlikely to sway an election either way, does not absolve me of the responsibility to act. Do we understand this concept, gang? I hope you do. Simply because it is unlikely that my actions will have an effect does not absolve me from taking that action. I'll give you an example, okay? I'll give you an example, good example. If you are in a crowd, okay? In a crowd of people, it's loud, they're yapping, they're yelling, they're screaming, etc. And they're about to beat up a woman that you think is innocent, okay? They're about to lynch her. Okay, string her up. It is highly unlikely that your singular voice within that crowd is going to stop what's going to happen, right? It's very unlikely that you'll be able to stop what's about to happen. But I think you have a moral obligation to speak out anyway. And if you fail to do so, I condemn you for that. Intense Complex says, I'm having trouble engaging with the hypothetical of an innocent woman. Based. No, it's a joke. We're joking. Okay, we're joking. It's a little misogyny as a treat, but it's a joke. Okay. But yes, you have a moral obligation to, at the very least, speak up and say, hey, this is wrong. Do not do this. To speak out. Hasan refusing to do so and using the excuse of, well, hey, my voice is just a small itty bitty small voice, right? My endorsement won't singularly save the Republic from MAGA, so you shouldn't blame me for not doing it. I reject that way of thinking entirely. Let's continue.
Then it is the most idiotic thing not to listen to my demands. But everybody knows that that's not real, right?
Hold on, let's
if I
see what
have
he has
force
to
in
say.
this country that is capable of making or breaking an election, and if that was real, then it is the most idiotic thing not to listen to my demands. But everybody...
Again, this is a false dichotomy. No one's saying that your singular voice, right, is going to make or break things. And again, listen to your demands. Remember, we're in a situation where one side is actively violating people's First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, Eighth Amendment rights, 10th Amendment rights, 14th Amendment rights. Okay, they're trying to get rid of birthright citizenship. Okay, we're in a situation where one side is doing all that and the other side is just vaguely problematic. Okay, it's just sometimes annoying. Okay, those are your options. And if in that scenario you are making demands like, I'm not going to fulfill my moral responsibility unless you give me treats. I'm not going to do my moral duty unless you give me treats. I won't save that woman that's drowning unless, what's in it for me, gang? Right? That's a villain shit. Oh, I see your country's in quite a state. I could perhaps, put my thumb on the scale a little bit. Might not solve all your problems, but it'll help, maybe, perhaps, right? But unless you give me exactly what I want, I'm gonna throw you to the wolves. I'm gonna let those wolves devour you and devour your country. What's in it for me, gang? What's in it for me? It's morally bankrupt way of thinking. It's a morally bankrupt way of thinking.
Knows that that's not real, right? If I had this singular force to be able to make Kamala Harris the president, then Kamala Harris should be coming to me every day and being like, let me do a collab with you, please.
Totally.
Right? That's not the case, of course, and they know it. That's why they didn't do it. But the campaigns are always responsible for whether or not they are able to win the crowds, win the population over. And
let's talk about that, because yes, campaigners, politicians do bear some responsibility here. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not absolving of their responsibility. They do have some. But you know who has ultimate responsibility? The ultimate power to decide who goes to office and who's elected to office and who doesn't isn't the politician. It's the voter. The voter has the final say, right? At the end of the day, they're the ones that vote someone into office or keep them out of office. The politicians could run a bad campaign, good campaign, right? And we could say that they have some responsibility to run a good campaign. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that, right? But at the end of the day, it's a voter who holds a responsibility. Simply because they don't hold sole responsibility does not absolve them of the responsibility. Simply because it's not the only reason, right, doesn't absolve them of failing. So this idea that we can't condemn voters or can't condemn influencers who try to get you to vote one way or the other, I just reject entirely, right? It's not an either or. It's not a binary thing. They all share some level of responsibility. And I would put the onus on the voter because they are, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are making the final decision. You can run the best campaign. You can have the most cogent arguments, the most persuasive rhetoric, the best policies that are going to save the world. But if the voter is in a bad mood and decides, no, I don't like your hair, okay? I don't like the fact that you're a woman. Their voice wins out because that's our system. So yes, the people with the most power get the most responsibility. Voters in our system have the most power. They receive the most responsibility. They receive, if they fail to live up to their obligation, the most condemnation. And I know it's not popular, okay? I know it's a lot easier to blame one person for a problem than groups of people, right? It's a lot easier to point to a figurehead and pile on all the sins like they're some sort of sin eater here. But no, at the end of the day, the voters share a whole heck of a lot of blame for who gets in and who gets out, right?
Combat against the couch, not necessarily even against the Republican Party, but usually you're fighting against the couch, people who just don't go out and vote. And for me, the way I see it is if the Democratic establishment makes this decision one more time, just as they did with Hillary Clinton, just as they did with Kamala Harris, and in some ways, just as they did with Joe Biden as well, which led to Trump too, then they just don't care. And there's not much I can do.
Let me tell you something. I agree with everything you said.
No, don't agree with everything he says. What he's saying is bullshit. What are you doing? If you think that that's the way the world is operating, then you are going to continually lose over and over and over again, right? If we look at the last 6 elections or 5 elections, we had 2016, right? Trump won in 2016, I'll grant you that. In 2018, the Democrats won. In 2020, Biden won. The Democrats won. In 2022, guess who won again? The Democrats. Then 2024, you have this weird election cycle, right? Trump wins in that election cycle. But guess who's about to win? Democrats. Guess who won in 2025 with all the special elections? Democrats. Again, more often than not, the strategy that the Democrats are going with is winning. It's successful. This idea that it has to work every time or you never do it, this is incel thinking, gang. Okay, this is literally incel thinking. The idea that, oh, I asked a woman out one time and they said no, so I'm never going to ask them out again because it never works. No. You go out, you ask as many times as you can, and eventually someone says yes, okay? Just because it doesn't work one time doesn't mean it doesn't work. That's the only way to get dates, pretty much. This idea that Democrats are losers is just not true. We win more than we lose. We did lose in 2024, but we've won in 2025, and oh my God, 2026 is going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans. They're going to lose, and they're going to lose by a lot. It's not going to be a little, it's going to be a lot, gang. Every metric we have in place shows that. Keep watching.
Hey, but as a person who lived in a red state for 50 years, I would crawl through 10 feet of concrete to vote for Gavin Newsom, even though I think he's duplicitous, a hypocrite, a thirst trap, hungry for power, all of the things that you say.
Mm-hmm.
And
based. See? Yes. That's yes. Yes. She's spitting facts at this point.
Harms the Democratic Party and sets the psychological soil to be more prey to fascism. All of that I agree with. But there are so many young, queer, Black, brown, marginalized people in red states. And even though this corporate Democrat is, you see it in a long-term game. In the short-term game, a President Newsom over a President J.D. Vance.
This long-term game, short-term game, she has it entirely backwards. Remember when I said that these people like to paint Democrats as corporatists and shills and corrupt, just the same as MAGA? That's why we're having such trouble getting Americans to believe just how corrupt the Trump administration is. It's because people like that give these talking points that the Democrats are corrupt, corporate shills, and all these things. And again, there's corruption everywhere, right? But the idea that Democrats are corrupt just isn't borne out by the data. And we have huge examples, right? Egregious examples of Republican corruption, MAGA corruption specifically, Trump corruption specifically, right? It's insane. And this kind of rhetoric that Democrat corporatists and stuff, that is doing material harm to the Democratic Party. Because it's not true. It's not true, gang. Sorry, I get worked up a little bit. Grumpy Jones says, Orange Man Bad is never going to be a winning strategy. It would be if we didn't have a progressive wing trying to point out, well, Democrats are bad too, every chance they get. One of the reasons it does not work, which it doesn't work for many people, is because there's this false idea, this false belief that both sides bad, actually. And it's not true. Democrats are, the worst Democrat is better than the best MAGA guy, okay? The worst Democrat you can think of is better than the best MAGA has to offer. That's just the facts of the matter as they stand in the year of our Lord, 2026, okay? It's just true. The worst Democrats tend to be MAGA anyway? Well, yeah. But they aren't Democrats in that case. They're MAGA. Don't call them Democrats. I had more clips and stuff. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. I had them up. And there's a reason I'm pushing back against Hasanism, okay, at this point. Like, this is where we are as a country. Let's watch this. Hold on. Let me bring it up.
The results.
Hold on. Let's watch this. They ran the numbers on this, okay? Worth watching. Let me just
from that special election, that Democratic primary in the 11th district in New Jersey, speak to a larger point within the Democratic Party, and that is that the far left is significantly more powerful than they once were. This sort of gives the game away here. Democrats who identify as very liberal or conservative. You know, there used to be a lot of conservative Democrats, right? Back in 1999, 26% of Democrats self-identified as conservative. Just 5% said that they were very liberal. It was a smidgen, a smidgen, a smidgen. Now that far left has gained considerably in power. Look at this. Now we're talking about a fifth of Democrats. 21% say they're very liberal. That conservative part of the Democratic Party, adios amigos, goodbye, just 8%. And when you combine the 21% who are very liberal with those who say that they're somewhat liberal, we're talking about 3 in 5 Democrats who identify as either somewhat liberal or very liberal, with the very liberals, a much larger portion of the party. The far left, which used to just be a smidgen within the Democratic Party, has gained considerable power, as you saw in New Jersey's 11th district.
This is bad, gang. I want you to be clear that this is hurting us electorally. This is hurting us electorally. When the Republicans have painted us as far left, it's hard to combat that, or it's harder to combat that when you have people within the party, right, who are saying, yeah, I do think that Hasan's correct. I do think that these very far leftist views are my own, right? It's driving people away. People who would otherwise caucus with us, otherwise vote with us, otherwise support us, are being driven away.
What about Democratic socialists, like the likes of, you've got Bernie Sanders and or Zoran Mandani here in New York City? Where does that line up?
Okay, so on a separate question where you essentially, CNN asked this last year, which was, okay, Democrats who think of themselves as democratic socialists, among all Democrats, including those independents who lean towards the Democratic Party, look at this. We're talking about a third of all Democrats who identify as democratic socialists. Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mandani are not alone. They are a considerable part of the Democratic base at this point. And more than that, if you look at Democrats under the age of 35, they are nearly half of the Democratic Party. Look at this. 42% of Democrats think of themselves as democratic socialists under the age of 35, just like Zoran Mandani. What happened in New York City is not some aberration, right? It is not something that just happened in New York City. It is something that we are seeing grow within the Democratic Party at this particular point, when we're talking about 42% of Democrats under the age of 35 identifying as democratic socialists, and a third of all Democrats. My goodness gracious.
So if the ideology of the Democratic Party is shifting or changing, How are people feeling about it?
Okay, so we're talking about the Democratic base, right? But what about all Americans, right? How about all voters? Voters who say the Democrats are now too liberal. Look at this percentage. It was 42% in 96, 48% in 2013, now 58% in 2025 of all voters say that the Democratic Party is too liberal.
If we want to win, that is a terrible number for us. Okay, gang? For our long-term health of our party, that's a terrible number for over half of this country to think that we are too far left. That's insane. And we need to reverse the trend. We need to reverse the trend. And until we do, we are going to struggle electorally when we should not. Right? In a ideal world, we would be at 400 electoral votes across the country on a national election. We'd have, 40 of the 50 states in our pockets. In the Senate, we'd have huge margins within the House, right? But because we have this anchor around our legs of these far-left ideologues that are infesting our party, that are stinking up the joint, it's a huge problem, okay? It's a huge problem. And let me be clear. If you are on the left, if you're on the far left, and you want the Democratic Party to be more far left, one of the worst things that can happen is for MAGA to win. Remember, in the 2-3 months after November 2024, when Trump won, a lot of Democrats were rushing to the right because that's where the voters were. Since then, it's reversed. MAGA fucked it up, and Trump single-handedly destroyed whatever push to the right that he had won in the 2024 election because sheer incompetence, brutality, all these things. The voters saw, oh shit, we don't actually want this. This is crazy. And people are running away from him. Voters are running away from him in crazy numbers. But in the first 2 or 3 months, the Democrats were set to go more right. Because guess what, gang? Politicians are incentivized to win elections. And when the voting base is saying, hey, we're a center-right to a right-leaning electorate, where do you think the politicians are going to go? They're going to go to the right. So if you want them to go left, you have to vote for Democrats so that they will take you seriously, so that they will, again, say, well, these guys put me in power. They must have the ability to do so. Nothing succeeds like success. We should listen to them. Alejandro Hernandez says, Wick, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but the Democratic Party is going to continue to trend right, left, not right. Sorry to break the news. I agree, but only because the left is winning in general, right? If the right starts to win, like the left has started to win, that trend will reverse. Do you understand? Like if J.D. Vance wins in 2028, that trend reverses. It simply will. Why wouldn't it? The politicians who want to win elections, because otherwise they don't get paid, they don't get a job, they can't enact any of their policies, right? They want to win. That is their goal, okay? That's their overarching thing that they want before anything else. They want to win. So if they see an electorate that continues to push right, they're going to go right. That's going to happen. Now, we don't live in that world yet. And like I said, 2026 is coming. And we're going to go, the Democrats are just going to win. So many seats. It's going to be crazy. But if we were not to, if for something went terribly wrong and we didn't for whatever reason, you'd see the Democrats shift to the right. Just would. I got a caller. Let me bring him on. Oops. Hello, you're live.
Hey,
Hey, what you got?
When you mentioned the trend would go the opposite way if like JD Vance were to win, are you saying like Democrat politicians as a whole or Democrat voters as a whole would start
Politicians
to
as a whole, because they would be like, hey,
politicians?
there are not enough voters to the left for us to actually win a seat, so we're going to have to appeal to voters who will actually go out and vote for us and elect us.
Okay. I guess the issue I see maybe with that is that because we've been seeing with Trump presidency and things is the divide widening between Republicans and Democrats. So Democrats are leaning further and further left, and Republicans are
Can
leaning
you
further
repeat
and
that? I'm
further
sorry,
right.
you cut off. Maybe it's my audio or something, but yeah,
Oh,
just
sorry.
repeat it, please.
So because when it comes to voters, Democrats seem to be leaning further and further left, and Republicans seem to be leaning further and further right. And this just seems to be like a trend that's happened over the course of the Trump presidencies. Do you think it's possible that just moderate Democrats are going to have to go away as a whole
No.
in order to win?
Far left Democrats don't generally win. Almost never. It's almost always the moderates that win.
Well, so like for instance, Zoran Mandani won. There's, I want to say like, I guess like if JD Vance were to win,
Hold on.
I want
I
to say
just want
that
to
would
point
just
out that the only
push.
far left candidate you can point to that's won recently is one person out of all the hundreds of elections we've had across the country. There was one. True.
Right.
But he's an outlier, right?
I think his popularity though is kind of nationwide popularity is something to consider though. I think it's kind of like
Is he popular
almost like
nationwide?
I want to say he's fairly popular. I'd have to look it up to get you an exact number.
I know that that's what the far leftists would like you to believe because they won't shut up about him. But is he like? I don't know if he's popular outside of New York.
I mean, I could be wrong on that one. I'd have to look into numbers. I guess my overarching point is that as the parties start to diverge more and more, it might be possible that Democrats have to lean into the extremes of their base in order to really combat Republicans.
I don't
they
think we
continue
win
to
an
go to the
extremist
extreme.
battle. Frankly, I don't think that our extremists can beat their extremists. I just don't think so. I don't think that's true. Now, you're correct that the right has gone more extreme. MAGA has basically destroyed the Republican Party in a very real way. But that's why I would argue that they're losing more often than not. That's why I would argue that even though they did win in 2024, almost immediately after, when it became clear that they weren't able to get anything done, right? That their governance was impotent, that the things that they were able to accomplish, they had to use horror and brutality and violate the Constitution to do, right? Has basically any chance that they had to move the country further right, they've squandered.
Yeah,
because people gotta understand, it's not just about winning elections; it's about actually governing too. But we're like that hasn't come into the conversation too much yet. Like Mamdani, let's look at Mamdani. If Mamdani is able to govern extremely well, he will move things to the left because people will say, "Hey, this works."
Yeah, I guess whenever I talk to like Republicans these days, they're pretty happy with the way things are going as far as like Trump is concerned. Like because they don't care about Congress. Like, they've essentially done away with the idea that Congress is effective in any manner, and you need that authoritarian, basically, executive to come in. And they've been saying, like, for like the past 25 years, we've been stuck, kind of, in this kind of like chokehold of like bouncing back and forth, and we're not getting anything that we want out of it. So you gotta have someone come in and push everyone around.
I think that's true for some of the cultists, right? Like the MAGA cult itself. Yeah, that's exactly true. But they would say, I voted for this no matter what, right? Like no matter what happened, no matter how bad it was, they would post hoc rationalize. That's fair. But I don't think most of the country is like that. I think most of the country, and I think that this is going to be reflected in the midterms, to be clear. Most of the country is like, nah, fuck this. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like it would be interesting to see how much of it is due to the actual policies, and then how much of it is actually due to just the way Trump goes about enacting those things. With the whole ICE situation being them going about it in such a brutal way that just at this point everyone's sick of it. It could have been that they used the executive power to do that, but if they were smart about it, I think they probably would have had more support throughout.
Well, here's
still
the problem, though.
Violating the Constitution.
And this is kind of like the rock and the hard place that they're between. And this is why Stephen Miller changed a lot of the policies around ICE back early in 2025. And those policies have directly led to the brutality we've seen, because they weren't hit the way that they were doing it before wasn't getting the numbers that their cult demanded, right? They demanded like mass deportations, but it wasn't working, right? They weren't getting those numbers. In fact, they were on track to be less than Biden had deported, right? And so Stephen Miller came in and basically changed a whole bunch of things and said, okay, instead of going after criminals, we're going to go after soft targets. We're going to go to schools. We're going to go to churches. We're going to go to immigration court hearings. We're going to go to all these places. And then we're also going to surge in to different cities, right? Chicago, Minneapolis, all these other places. We're going to change our way of doing things. And those changes, those policy changes, like they're not going to listen to the Fourth Amendment anymore. They're not going to wait for a judicial warrant. They're just going to break in. Has led to the brutality we're seeing, and has led to people just being like, nah, fuck this. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that they can't actually enact what they promise without doing it the way that they're doing. But the way that they're doing is so odious that it's going to turn everyone off. So it's like a catch-22 situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I didn't just see a world where the majority of voters become so split, and the majority of people on the left think they, like, even if they don't necessarily hold those views, they think that someone extreme needs to be put in place in order for change to actually be effective.
I mean, there are people on both sides who are increasingly thinking this, but I reject that. I think that that's going to lead to worse outcomes. But
yeah. I mean, I would agree. As I struggle to decide how I'm definitely moderate. Voted for Kamala because I saw that as the clearly better option.
Sure.
I think if like a far left candidate were to come up and be in the running, I'm not sure who I would vote for in that case. I'd have to think really hard about.
Okay. Is there anything else you got for us before we move on?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for chatting.
No, thanks for calling in, man. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Well, you're live. Hello, you are live.
Oh my God. Hey, Wick, what's up?
Oh, living life.
I gotta put the stream. Hold on. This is gonna fuck me up.
Hey, I can't hear you. What are you saying?
Oh, sorry. I had to mute the stream real fast.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back. Okay, what you got for me?
Yeah, no, sorry. I've been wanting to actually get on and have a conversation with you for a little bit, and I finally have an opportunity. I literally just got off work. I missed the kind of beginning of the stream, but I wanted to ask you about the whole Zoran Mamdani. Well, I guess just the far left in general. And when you were pulling up that video that you were watching about like where the voter base is and how they view like where the Democrats are going to the left and yada yada. I, one of the things I was going to say is whenever I see these polls and they're talking about like whenever he had like the liberal, like has the Democratic Party become more liberal, it was on the screen, but he kept saying far left. I hate this idea that liberalism is like a far left ideology.
Yeah, I
know
don't
why
like the
they represent it that
just to be
way.
clear, I don't like the specific way to equate liberals with the left. I don't necessarily like that, but it's how they did it, and I understood what they were saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was having this argument with. I'm a little fired up right now because I was literally having this argument with one of my real life friends the other day, and I asked him even. I was like, "Do you think the Democratic Party over like the last 3 decades? Because I'm 35, right? So I was basically saying like in our lifetime, do you think the party's gone more left or more right? Because he's like on this far left tanky ideology right now, where he wants to just fucking burn it all down. And I keep trying to have conversations with him where I'm like, can we, like, do you regret? He voted Jill Stein in 2024, and I'm gonna be honest, that shit pissed me off.
Should. It should. He failed in his moral obligation. Yes.
Yeah, and he's such a smart, like, I know I said he voted for Jill Stein, but like he's a genuinely smart person.
Is he?
And he really is. But like something has just broken his brain. I think it's honestly fucking Israel Gaza just fucked all his shit up. But I keep trying to like bring him back into like a more normal kind of mindset, and I just don't know how to do it with these people, man. They really do think that like the
Well,
Republicans and the Democrats are equally bad,
yeah,
and it makes
that's
no
because
sense.
there's been a campaign by the progressive wing and the leftist wing to paint Republicans and Democrats as the same, because the only way that not the Republicans, the only way that the far left gains power is by siphoning support from the Democrats. So people who would otherwise vote Democrat, they have to get those voters on their side. And the way that they've done it, that they've found to be successful, is to paint both sides, Republicans and
Yeah.
Democrats, as the same. And there are plenty of wealthy, progressive advocacy groups, right, that engage in this rhetoric where they paint out Democrats as corrupt corporate shills funded by AIPAC.
It's
and
bullshit.
all that shit. And like
It's
they
bullshit,
accuse me
man.
all the time of getting like secret dark money from Chorus or some shit, right?
Yeah.
It's wild. And it makes it
I
harder, just real quick, it makes it harder for voters who are less educated, right, to look at the parties and see any real difference. One of our tasks as Democrats is to paint bright red lines and make very strong distinctions between the Democrats and the Republicans. And when progressives try to blur that line, it only helps the Republicans.
I would even like separate the word progressive a little bit, because like I consider myself, I'm somewhere in between like a liberal and a progressive. Like I have pretty progressive views.
The terminology, like
Yeah.
I'm talking about the far left progressives, right?
Yeah, like the tankies.
Yeah,
I don't even like
not just the tankies. I want to be clear. It's not just
okay.
tankies. It's people who are. I wish I had better terms for this, right?
Where would you start drawing the line?
Yeah. I think that anytime you start saying that both parties are the same, you've gotten
People who like don't support like the Democratic candidate. Yeah.
Yeah, you've gotten to a point. Like, I will accept anyone who votes for the Democratic candidate at this point, right? Like, if you are on board to oust MAGA, then
Welcome aboard,
yeah,
basically,
welcome,
right?
welcome aboard. Even if you're going to hold your nose to do it, I get it, right? I understand, right? But we have to recognize that we are living in a moment where MAGA is an enemy to America, to what it means to be an American, right? To our Constitution. And if you're not willing to do the bare minimum to vote for the person right? The Democrat who is going to oust MAGA, even if you don't like some of the stuff that they do. Because I'll be real with you guys. I would not be excited to vote for Mamdani or AOC or Bernie Sanders anymore, right? Like, even though I've voted for Bernie Sanders in primaries in the past, I've changed my mind on him in some ways. He would not be an exciting candidate. Even Newsom, I'd be like, not my favorite. But I would vote for them in a heartbeat. Because
Okay, see, now
they
we're
are
in
the
now we're
only
in interesting
ones
territory.
that are going to have a chance at getting rid of MAGA.
I will push back against you maybe just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because like yeah, okay, so like obviously you've had conversations with Destiny. I would consider myself a DGGer to an extent, okay? I'm a big Destiny fan.
Okay.
And one of the things he said recently, I hope that doesn't piss off a bunch of people in your chat, but no, actually your chat should be pretty chill with him. But one thing he did say recently was that a lot of candidates tend to run on kind of like extremist ideas, but then once they actually get into office or get into power, at least from like the lefty side, they tend to like moderate, because if you don't moderate, you're going to lose popularity, you're going to lose support, and you're not going to be able to hold your office for very long.
Well, that's why. Look, that's why a lot of the far leftists are against Mamdani now. They're anti-Mamdani. They're anti-AOC,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
even, right?
Yeah, no, like my friends in real life that I'm arguing with, they used to be all up on the fucking AOC hype train, and then as soon as she didn't push like the most extremist fucking ideas 24/7, they're like, oh well, now she's not really representing our values, and I'm like, you guys
that's
are
why
so
they're
fucking
enemies.
stupid.
Because
Yeah.
they are going to work against us. There's no appeasing these people. Just I hate to interrupt you, but I'm going to. Mike from PA is a great example of this. During Kamala's run up to when she was going to choose a vice president, a running mate to run with, basically, Mike from PA says, if you choose anyone but Walz, I'm not voting for you. It's Walz or nothing. Walz or I won't support you. Guess what? She chose Walz. Guess what he did? Not support her. Like, do you understand the lesson that Democrats are learning from this? Is that it doesn't matter what we do, even if we do what the leftists want, they're not going to vote for us. So I think that the lesson here should be just, well, fuck them. Don't listen to them. They're not going to vote for you anyway.
Me and another buddy of mine I kind of came up with this, but I'll give us both a little bit of credit. But I did say we should try to reclaim like the word progressive. I said we should just start calling ourselves neo-progs or neo-progressives. Like trying to like make a distinction between like the fucking lunatics on the far left and like people who just have like genuinely progressive ideas. Like if you want something like a strong social safety net, which I think is a good thing, I think that's something that we should be advocating for. Yeah, I think that would be like a good way to maybe like, because we had all these like neocons and the neo-libs and blah blah blah. It's like maybe like neo-progressives should be their own thing, and like maybe that's like a faction of like the left that we could welcome into the Democratic Party without being like on that far left space where all they want to do is actually destroy the Democratic Party. Have it be like a coalition on the left that does represent like the more progressive values without having to associate with like the fucking tankies and the commies and all the psychos over there.
No, I'm for that. Like, I don't know what you guys want to call yourselves. Look, for me, it's real simple. And this is maybe a little bit reductionist, but I think it helps to kind of draw, I guess, distinctions. I am a liberal. I vote for liberals. I support liberals. And my opponents are illiberal. So I will vote for the more liberal candidate in any election. Even if there's two illiberals, the one that is more liberal is the one that I'll vote for, right?
Yeah.
It's really that simple. So all these like distinctions between tanky, progressive, far leftist, neo-socialist, neo-Marxist, whatever, right? I'm a liberal. They're not. Does that make sense?
Simple, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I do want to also kind of bring up another thing.
Yeah,
you said
one
just
more
a
thing,
second
and then
ago.
I got to cycle you out. So last thing, go ahead.
Oh, fair. Yeah, no, when you were talking about like holding your nose up to people or like holding your nose up to vote for the Dems or whatever, I don't. Do you ever watch Philip DeFranco?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. He does like a news show or whatever. I watch him sometimes, but he was just talking about this rhetoric of like he was kind of saying the same thing where it's like, well, even if you don't like to vote for the Democrats, or even if you don't want to, or blah blah blah, or like lesser of two evils, and all this like rhetoric that keeps getting brought up. I think we really need to shift the rhetoric away from that kind of thinking, because I think it does cause a lot of voter apathy whenever people just think that like both the choices kind of suck. Like I've even been guilty of this in the past too, but where I'm at now is like we have one party that just thrives on like evil and cruelty and like brings out the worst qualities and traits in humanity. And then we have another party who's just actually trying to function as like a political party. You know, they're trying to like balance the needs of the constituents, you know, trying to like make deals and actually like pass legislation. Like they're functioning as like a real political party. Meanwhile, we have the fucking MAGA idiots on the right who have the full power of the government right now, and yet they have done nothing legislatively with it. They are ruling purely through executive power. Um, like, yeah, I just don't know. I don't get this like, well, like let's hold our noses and vote for the Democrats, or like let's vote for the
Yeah.
lesser of two
Well,
evils. Like, no,
I
let's
just
let's
want to be
vote for like the
clear.
actual political party that
Yeah.
exists.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't know who our candidate's going to be in 2028, right? I have no idea.
Sure.
We haven't had a primary. I know who I want to win, right? I know who the people I would like to have in. But the reason I say things like, even if it's someone I have to hold my nose for, I'm still going to vote for them, isn't to try to paint the Democrats as the same as Republicans or on some kind of equal footing, even the like AOC Mamdani types, right? It's to just let people know that I am willing to do whatever it takes to oust MAGA, because MAGA is the threat. So that is why I use that rhetoric in that situation. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I wasn't even trying to like accuse you necessarily. Like
No,
I
but I
love
think it's
watching your
important
debates, and I
to
think you
just
did it.
understand, because I know a lot of people give Hutch a lot of crap for saying things like, oh, he'd vote for like Hitler 99% versus Hitler 100%, right?
Look, I love Hutch. I love Destiny. I
Yeah.
love all these people. These are my like you, all of them. Like you guys are all like my lib bros. Okay, I watch you guys constantly. But I'm just saying, like in general, I think the messaging needs to shift. Like we need to. One of the problems that I see with like my far lefty friends is that they're always looking for the reasons to shit on the Democrats and attack them for every little fucking thing. They never will acknowledge anything positive that the Dems ever do. And like when I was even watching your debate the other day, where we're like, would you give the Democrats credit if they got the masks off and the body cams on? Like I don't know how anybody could look at that and just think that that's like not a good policy proposal. That would be a good thing if the Democrats are able to get that through. But I know that there are people who, even if that happened, are just going to go, well, it's not good enough, or it doesn't matter, or blah, like they're not going to give them any credit. And I think we need to focus more on like, look at what the Democrats are actually doing and are able to accomplish,
you're
so
correct.
that way, like, it gets people excited.
We
You
need
know?
to be positive, and I agree with that. And it can be, it's just for me, like my focus for the last month, at least, has been ICE, right? Because I think that is like such a overwhelmingly pressing issue that is doing overwhelming damage, that ICE has been talked about by me more than any other subject I've talked about in the last month.
Yeah.
But you're right that I do need to be more like, look, the Democrats are doing X, Y, and Z, and that's good. Or they're trying to do X, Y, and Z, and these things were or be good. So I take that for what that is. But thanks for calling in, man. I do appreciate it. And continue to watch me and all that. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy?
Much love, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And
Bye-bye.
yeah, hopefully talk again soon.
Yeah. Bye. Speaking of watching me, gang, hit that like button. Okay. There's how many of you in chat? And there's 51 likes. We need to double that number, okay? At least. Okay, double that number. 135 of you in chat right now. We should get at least 100 likes in this bitch, okay? So hit that like button. It's free. Hit that subscribe button so you can see more of me. Like one of the things I've noticed is most of my viewers don't actually subscribe to my stream, which is weird. You should do that. You should subscribe. And if, hey, you feel like supporting the channel, like, and you have $20 in your pocket, consider super chatting. Really helps. Or throwing me some gift subs on Twitch or something. Really useful. Really useful. Let's bring in the next caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. What's up?
I cannot hear you.
Uh-oh. Hello? 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 Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh, no. Well.
I think I might have to drop out and come back in.
Okay, we'll try again. Sad. Zephyr's a nice guy. Hello? Oh, he's deafened. Can you hear me?
Hey, I had you deafened because the other guy got
You're
dragged in.
fine.
How's it going, Wick?
Going okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So I don't know if you'll disagree with me or not. I probably have some observations and like 2 questions for you, and we can kind of go from there. I was actually going to ask Lonerbox this question when he was on, but he got bogged down in all that January 6th stuff. But I think, like, even right now, we're spending a lot of time talking about how to filter out radical voices and ideas, and I think a lot of people do a good job with that on the left. That's what we're doing with this Hasan conversation that we're having right now. I think this is something that people like Hutch and people like Destiny, these other liberal pundits do pretty well. We even have other folks that I would say are trying something a little different, where they're doing something akin to catching more flies with honey, so to speak, but from a liberal perspective, and I would say that's kind of what Pisco's kind of doing right now, maybe erudite to some extent. But at the same time, I don't see anybody promoting any healthy, pragmatic, progressive voices, however far down the line
Who
you
would
want to
be
go on
a
the progressive
healthy,
spectrum.
progressive voice that you think should be promoted?
So that's the thing. That's the $1 million question. I thought about this really hard, and I actually had an epiphany while I was thinking about it. At the time, I could only really think of one, and I didn't know if nobody promotes these voices,
who is
or
it?
if the one that I could think of, and then I did think of another one. Rip. The second one was Akana Boy, but he just
I
talks
like
about.
Akana Boy, sure.
Honestly, I want to go back to him because I had an epiphany. I think we kind of did him a little dirty, but or not me, but maybe this punditry community at large. But
In what way?
the other one, well, here's the thing.
He's a socialist, and I don't like socialists, but I like Akana Boy. But if you think I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna just because I like him, I'm just gonna swallow his ideology. No.
No, that's fine. I think I'm talking about just the community at large. I think he got a lot of heat. So.
Oh, fair enough. Maybe.
And maybe that just wasn't the wisest thing to be giving someone that wasn't, a radical socialist. Like, I think we need, just like I said, sane progressive voices. So, the only one that I could even think of was what's his name? It's Joshua Citarella, I think his name is. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He does Doomscroll.
Don't know him. Should I?
No, that's a pretty big podcast. He generally has more progressive folks on there. I think he describes himself as an old school socialist. But as far as I can see, certainly not radical. I think he did an episode on bridges way back about like the Walmart planned economy, if I remember correctly. But I'm wondering, where are the people like him in the pundit class? Like, do they even exist? Like, that's what I was going to ask Loner, because I think he's probably leans the furthest progressive.
Yeah, Loner's someone I consider a progressive. I mean, he's not American, so his politics are a little different, right, over there.
Yeah,
but he's progressive, pretty smart guy. I don't think that he's an ally. He's on my team. I consider him on my team, and he's progressive. So, like, Lonerbox would be a voice I think we should promote, right?
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's interesting because whenever I come across these people, like Citarella, like his whole thing is he interviews other progressive people. He's not a pundit per se. And someone like Lonerbox, while he does kind of opine on the happenings of the day or the month or whatever, he really focuses very, very strongly on like Israel, Palestine and stuff like that. I don't know anyone who just who's sane, who's not radical, who preaches pragmatic, progressive
Well, gang,
politics.
if you are in chat and you know a progressive that I should be talking to be a sane representation of a progressive, give me the names. I'll try to get them on. I'd love to have a conversation with them. But
Yeah.
thank you for calling in, man. I do appreciate that. But yeah, I'll talk to you later, okay, man?
Yeah, sounds good. I got one more question,
Oh,
though.
one more question. One more question. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I had two here. It just relates to the same one, but it's just kind of to sane test my thing, I guess, or what's your thoughts on it? So I think there's also been a lot of conversation on how we need to have a healthy conservative movement in the country versus the one we have now. Are you on board with that idea?
Yeah, I think that a sane opposition party is healthy for a democracy, and the fact that we don't have one right now is a problem. Yes.
Do you think you would apply that same standard to folks left or even much further left than us?
What do you mean?
Would you apply if you were to if we didn't just have this binary of right and left, if we had some
Oh, sure. I think that
trinary.
In an ideal world, every policy or not policy, I'm sorry, every kind of segment would have more sane voices representing it. But the problem we're having is as you go more and more extreme, the ideologies themselves become less and less sane, and you're going to have a real struggle finding sane representatives of these ideologies. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think there's some truth to that, yeah.
Like, I don't think I can think and when I say sane, I mean reasonable, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're literally insane, right? I don't know anyone who would be a reasonable accelerationist, for example, on the right or the left. I think that the idea of letting everything burn down, right? Rivers of blood, so that you can rise from the ashes and have a, more pure party or whatever. I think that's fundamentally, at its base, an unreasonable ideology. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, yeah. No, and I think that's where we filter these people out as radical because there's no need for acceleration, right? If global warming was coming 5 years from now, then we might need to have an acceleration movement over that, and it would make sense, and you'd have to accept it. Or if we're, going to war or something crazy like that, we're not.
But I don't think we live in that world, so.
Yeah, we don't live in that world right now.
But thanks for calling in, man. Do appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, Zephyr, you are the last caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. I can. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you?
We're here. No, I'm doing good. I think today's been a good show. But go ahead. What you got?
All right. I have questions not about Hasan, but it is about sort of the policies that the Democrats should run on, because I believe that in a certain manner of sense, like the Democrats have to run extreme policies at this point because they need to be okay, we need to pull back ICE. We need to undo a lot of the things that the Republicans have passed, like the SAVE Act they passed today, like all of Trump's executive order. Not the Senate.
Yeah,
the
I don't think it will, but
okay,
it did pass the House. But no, I understand what you're saying now, that because Republicans have done so many, or MAGA, I should say, have done so many extreme actions with ICE and other things that we're going to need to do equally extreme actions to undo them. I reject that premise. I don't think it's equally extreme to want to defund ICE at this point or want to reform or to abolish ICE. I don't think that that's currently an extreme position, in part because MAGA has made it extreme, right? And
how about
how about I just don't
capturing
think
how about imprisoning every J6er?
No, I don't think that's extreme at this point.
You don't think that would be considered extreme in modern America? I think it would, but I do think Democrats need to run on it.
Let me think about
that. It would be considered extreme.
Let me think about that. I think it would be in the sense that we'd need to find a way around the pardon power. So yeah,
Like
no,
doing
okay, I can
trials
see
on
what
pretty
you're
much
saying here.
every.
I see what you're saying here. I think that yeah, because it would involve getting around the pardon power, that would be a bit of an extreme thing.
Perhaps prosecuting the current administration, like members of the current administration.
If they've committed crimes, I don't think it's extreme to prosecute them. And we've
I don't think it is extreme, but it is going to be perceived as extreme by
politicians before. Like that isn't new.
No, but on a scale, we are talking about a massive scale here.
Oh, again, I don't think that's extreme.
I don't think it's extreme either.
Look,
I think,
I do
it's
think
perceived
it's
as
extreme
extreme.
what Destiny and stuff is advocating to like prosecute the fucking like people who haven't committed a crime, right? Who are just aiding and abetting the Republican Party or whatever.
Mhm.
I think that's insane. But if you have committed a crime and we can prove it, then yes, you should be prosecuted.
How about prosecuting everyone on the Epstein list or the Epstein
Well, if
file?
they've committed a crime, sure.
Well, again, it's easy to say if they've committed a crime, and obviously we're going to have to sort of do an investigation to see that. But when the list comes out and say there's like upwards of 3,000 people that need to be prosecuted, if not
Then
more.
do it.
Okay, if
Just because it's a
your
large
opinion
number
is that it's
doesn't make
not
it extreme, though, right?
fair, yeah. If you think it should not because I want this to be done. To be fair, but I just think it is likely to be perceived as extreme. But if you don't, hey, I'm all in for it. So
Like if you gave me a list, and on that list, and there was evidence of this, that there was 3,000 pedophiles, right? Legit pedophiles in the government. I don't think it's I think the extreme action would be to ignore it, right? I think the extreme
Fair.
action would be to prosecute what you can to get them out. And failure to do
how
so
about-
would be the extreme.
And how about, in my opinion, now this is my personal opinion. I don't know if it's a valid policy or not. All the funds essentially that Trump has transferred from the government into his purse, or not directly, but like essentially taken bribes.
Yeah. I
What
think we should
about
take
sort
that
of
back.
prosecuting the Trump estate, right?
Yeah, I think
Trump
we should take
estate
that
and his
back.
family too.
Like if you've committed
Okay.
fraud, which is basically what they're doing, right?
Right, and fired like hundreds of thousands of government employees. They
Yes.
all need to be
I think that
filled in.
yes, you've done something illegal, and we should prosecute you. Now, whether that involves jail
Right.
time or not depends on the crime, right? But yeah. But thank you for calling in, Zephyr. That's
All
awesome.
right, yeah. Well, I'm glad you don't consider it extreme. That's good. Like, I was worried that it would be considered extreme. So,
I'll talk to you later, man. Bye.
all right, take care. Bye.
Okay, there's one last thing I want to do. I think we're going to end on this note. I think it's an important note to end on. A gentleman by the name of David J. Beyer. Beyer? I don't know how to say his name. He testified in front of Congress recently, and we're going to watch his testimony, gang. Me and you. I think it's important to hear. He lays out much more eloquently than I my issues with ICE and this administration. Well, let's hear what he has to say.
Chairman Cornyn, Ranking Member Padilla, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. For nearly half a century, the Cato Institute's research has shown that people of any ancestry, background, or birthplace can be assets in a free society. America's immigrants exemplify this truth. Despite often leaving terrible conditions abroad, immigrants work, start businesses, and invent at higher rates than the U.S.-born population. Cato's recent analysis shows that immigrants reduced deficits by $11.5 trillion over the last 30 years, including about $140 billion in Minnesota. Although welfare fraud is a serious problem, immigrants aren't to blame. Non-citizens account for just 5% of welfare fraud losses, 31% less per capita than U.S. citizens. Rather than targeting entire ethnic groups, Congress should end the broken welfare systems, namely the oversight-free aid to states that led to all the fraud in Minnesota. But let's be clear, DHS isn't anti-fraud. DHS is itself openly carrying out the largest fraud in the history of the U.S. immigration system. DHS and the State Department are raking in billions of dollars in immigration fees and not providing the adjudications that applicants are entitled to. For individuals for over 90 countries, half of all legal immigrants, the administration is simply not processing their applications.
And to be clear, this is a real problem. Trump administration officials, DHS officials, are taking immigrants' money, right? They're saying, hey, we can expedite your process, we can get you a scene, we can adjudicate your issues, give us money, and we'll do that for you. They're taking the money, and then they're not doing that. That's fraudulent. And they're doing it to the tune of billions, with a B, of dollars, right?
The burden of proof is already on these applicants. DHS and state can deny anyone who fails to make their case. Instead, this administration is pocketing thousands of dollars from hardworking Americans and their relatives, including spouses and minor children of U.S. citizens, and then not even looking at their applications. This is a scam. It is fraud. DHS's entire Minnesota operation is another kind of scam sold to the public on lies. DHS hasn't criminally charged anyone with fraud there, and 60% of its immigrant arrests in Minnesota have no criminal convictions or charges. DHS itself classifies just 8% of its arrests in Minnesota as the highest threat level, and 3/4 of arrests it classifies as not being a threat at all. Instead of arresting fraudsters, it's seeking to jail 5,600 legal vetted refugees, nursing mothers, single parents, long-term residents, already dragged away from their families without any evidence of fraud at all. Rather than a law enforcer, DHS has become the biggest lawbreaker in America today. In less than a year, DHS has attacked the First, the Second, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Eighth, 10th, 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, the writ of habeas corpus, the independent judiciary, and much more. Every day, masked DHS agents detain Americans based on their race and demographics. They arrest legal immigrants for criticizing their foreign policy and Americans for recording them doing it. They threaten, assault, and even shoot people for exercising their First and their Second Amendment rights. They break into our homes without judicial warrants. They sentence legal immigrants to foreign prisons without trials. They are trying to strip the citizenship of Americans born in this country. They detain people without lawful basis, and they ignore court orders to release them. And of course, they lie about all of it. Combating fraud and upholding the rule of law is important, but the public cannot have faith in that effort by an administration that regularly gets away with fraud, lies, and lawlessness. Even the FBI supervisor and the 14 U.S. attorneys in Minnesota who were responsible for leading the welfare fraud effort there lost faith. They quit because of DHS's operation there. We need accountability. The Supreme Court has said Congress hasn't authorized Americans to sue immigration agents for constitutional violations. So fix it. No more absolute immunity, as the White House says. The new standard, absolute accountability. Anything less would be a fraud.
Beautiful, gang. Beautiful. Who's the guy talking? David J. Byer, okay? Great guy, member of the Cato Institute. Cato Institute, to be clear, is a right-wing organization, right? An actual conservative organization. Every word this guy says, just the truth, gang. Just the truth. He's preaching, and it's word for word accurate. We do need Congress to fix it, to authorize citizens whose rights, constitutional rights, have been violated so they can sue DHS. Because currently they can't, right? There's no accountability. They can't do anything. Congress needs to authorize that. This is why it's important to vote blue, okay? So that we can get Congress, so that we can authorize that. That's one of the first things that Congress needs to do after the midterms. $10 from Thomas Oliveras. Just say Thomas Wick. I have a genuine question for you. I am social democrat, progressive. I also voted for Kamala. I advocate to vote for. Should I be kicked out because of my political views? Well, no, you're helping us. You're an electoral ally. You want to vote, right, for Democrats. Why would I kick you out? No, Cal Mike says, that Cato guy is what Lactoid would be saying if he wasn't a sellout shill. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, look, to be clear, if you're progressive and you're on team vote Democrat, then you're with us, right? You're with us. But Hasan is not on that team, right? Hasan's ilk are not on that team because they're not. They're advocating against us. I don't know how am I not clear? Maybe I'm not. We'll see. Okay. What do we got coming up? Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Eastern. So a little later than I normally do. 8 p.m. Eastern. We are going to have a debate panel. Should America be a Christian nation? Okay. We're going to have Kung Fu Joe and Eli Nix versus Marlo and Nimble. So tune in for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know today was mostly me ranting, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you had fun. It looks like you guys liked me for the first hour, and it looks like most of you left for the second, but that's okay. We still love you. Okay, that's all I got. I'm going to see you guys later. Talk to you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Bye.